Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry about the mess on. I think the internet's been played up a little bit, so everyone's trying their best with this stuff. So I'm sorry it's all the pot a little bit, but we're getting there. So yeah, going back to being in prison, not a good thing, is it, Kevin?
No, it's not.
So just telling you the story about it when I was in there. I was on remand and did 3.5 months, 110 days, and it was, and there was that much corruption in the case. The prosecution barrister got kicked out. That band, it was terrible, and so I won't go into it. But anyway, so when I was in there, I was doing a little speech to the kids in there, young lads, only 18, 19, 20, 21 year olds, because there was a lot of kids in young because of there was that many people in the jail, and looked after a couple of kids who had died, and mums and things, and a couple of kids who were struggling in there. Go and talk to them. And just not a nice place to be, but I was speaking to 3 of them, and they were talking to me in the yard, and there was about 50, 60 people all sat down. I was like a school teacher talking to them, and I was like, tell us that story, can I show you where you got shot, man, where you got stabbed, when you fought duck in here, and tell them all this story, but it made the jail pass, we used to have fun, and my mate Dave, he was there, he was funny and that, but we were running about all different stories and things that happened here in jail, and I said, what are you using for then? They said, stabbed someone. I said, how long was it before you took the concert? He said, what's the concert? I said, thought. He said, about 2 seconds, and I stabbed him and killed him. I said, how long was it taking you? And he went, 2 seconds, and I killed him. I said, how long? He said, 2 seconds. And I went, 1, 2, 25, 1, 2, 25, 1, 2, 25, for 6 seconds. 75, they went. The hair stood on the back of the neck, and all the people now. And I made them realise it was a bit. It wasn't worth it. So for that, what I'm trying to say to you is, if you're carrying the knife, I've said this on a few podcasts, and I'll say it so long, because we are with the anti-knife campaign with Ben Spann. That's what me and my wife, the admin, we're trying to teach people, if you don't carry the knife, you can't use the knife. So just put down your knife and save a life, if you've got a knife and somebody starts fighting in the street, you're going to pull it in anger and stab someone. So when you do that, you kill that person. You're not just killing that person, you're killing yourself, because you're going to jail for life yourself. So you're taking 2 lives. You're
not only killing yourself, you're killing your family, your mum, your dad, your children. And no matter what you say, people are infatuated lately about these machetes and samurai swords and stuff like that. And if you're going in the shop to buy them, and someone phones you up, or someone's at your mate, and you're in your car and you've got it in you, you might be going to scare them, but you'd be tempted to use it. And if you were tempted to use it, then you're going to go to jail for a long time, or you may be killed yourself. And
there's a new law now, been out for a while, where I remember watching a film about this lad, I think it was Bradford he was in, and he lived across the road from his cousin. He said, well, he gives a lift to the kebab shop. So they went to the kebab shop, and he got up the car, and the lad who drives the car was a clean-cut lad, just worked British Steel or something, worked to the living, and been trying to give him a lift in his car, and they got out, and his cousins went in and stabbed him and killed him. And all 3 were found guilty, and they all had to get 25 years because it was called being concerned. And he couldn't prove that. He said, I'll give him a lift. He said, yeah, but you still took him. If you never took him to that place, you would have, he'd still be alive. So that's the new law. So
a quick story there as well, going back to my prison days, I was only a young lad, 18, and when I got sent away, I had a little girl at the time. She was only 9 months old. I was Zoe, lovely girl, and she's my firstborn. And my mum, who was a great lady, the song Jolene, Dolly Parton, always used to remind her of Zoe, because Zoe had this lovely rosy cheeks and loveliest colour auburn hair you've ever seen. And when I got sent away, obviously I was gutted. And without me knowing, the Christmas visit, 1976, in walks Pauline with her sister Kathy and little Zoe. And she was only literally 9-10 months, and she was starting to take steps. And I remember her walking over towards me with a lovely little face, and that was a gutted feeling. Went downstairs after the visit, it was association, and on it was the great Christmas hit, Johnny Mathis, When a Child Was Born. And that put things into perspective with me and that. Luckily, I was saying to Richie Hutchinson, the son of a great Thornaby legend, Ronnie Rutter, When I went in jail, I didn't realise at the time, but I was walking to exercise one day, turned the corner, and I heard someone shout, "Oh, young Kilty, who's that?" Looking at the cell, it's me, Ronnie Rutter. And the comfort it gave me that I knew Ronnie Rutter was in prison.
Yeah.
That comfort helped me a lot.
Does, yeah.
Same as Denny Petty. Denny Petty was in, but Denny was a little bit weird, actually.
Yeah.
There was a little spy holes, and every couple of nights you'd hear the noise. Shh. Kilty, Barnes, is that yours? And under the door had come this porn magazine.
Yeah.
And I was crapping myself thinking, who's this here? Weeks later, I'd realised it was Denny Petty.
Right.
And he had an obsession with my sister Maureen, like quite a few men did. And in the cell was a photo of our Maureen and Pat Solon. And he come in one day, and he was a biggish lad and a little bit mental disoriented, you know.
Yeah.
And I was only a young kid, and he looked at it, he said, "She's mine. That's my photo," and ran out with it.
Right.
He ran out with a photo. 2 days later, there's another knock on the cell door. "Is that you, Kev?" "Who is it? Who is it?" "It's me, I've just come in, Keith McQuaid." And I went, oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
What if he goes into Denny's cell and sees the picture? Yeah. So he had to ask Denny for it back, you know. Yeah. And anyway,
Keith would have murdered him.
Keith would have. Well, at that time, Keith, going back to him, he got on with our Maureen about 1975, late 75. Yeah. And Maureen and Pat worked in the Speakeasy, where Pat's uncle, Mickey Disney, always tough bloke, him and Jackie, worked on the door. So they worked as bar staff there, and she got on with Keith. And he was a really jolly lad, biggish lad, not very tall, but stocky, not bodybuilding big, but game. I wouldn't say mega the hardest fighter, but game, you know.
Back it up, yeah.
And he used to come in the Roseberry dance, and he was very well liked and that. And then later that year, obviously, I got sent to prison. And while I was in there, Maureen got married in Armley prison.
Right.
To Keith McQuaid, who was in Armley.
Right.
And he got shipped out of Armley from Accrington, where he was in with me. And later that year, you know, I got out 1978, January. And when I got out, Keith was still in prison. Yeah. And Maureen then had started to go out with John McPartland. He was known as Big Mac at the time, you know, Big Mac. He was well known in the Park End area. So he was a tough lad within his time, you know, like everyone. He liked some people didn't like him. But some of the stories I'll dwell on as we go in ahead in terms of trying to do it in stages. I'll come into the story with Keith McQuaid and John. Yeah. And Keith, as you know, died in prison, and so did John McPartland. I'll tell the tale towards that, because it's not nice for anyone to die in prison, no matter what they've done. No. And no one's glorifying it. I mean, obviously, the two lives that Keith allegedly took, because he didn't get convicted of it, that doesn't mean to say if someone didn't get convicted, they didn't do it. To say we're not looking at someone in this crime. No. One of them was Lee King, who I didn't particularly know. But obviously his family had been devastated that he was killed. Yeah. He was the lad who was at the court case who handed the knife to Allo, you know. But Allo, again, people speak well of him. I've met him a few times. Dave, he's really nice lad. You know, every time I've spoken, he's been a very, very, very pleasant lad. Obviously, he was well known for his football matches and the game lad. He could have a fight, hard worker. But
the lad, he's gone through hell through all the bullying and all that rubbish from the idiot from Stokes. He talked rubbish about him. He's a really nice lad, and he's a proper gentleman, and he doesn't like bullies either. No, he's one of them people who just won't back down, won't be bullied. But the past the past as well should be.
They shouldn't be drawing all these things up about that, you know, and mentioning names. I mean, that idiot writing about people don't want to know.
And the thing is, what makes me laugh him and his missus wife, and they're not even around this way, you know.
Yeah, they're not aware of anything.
They know nothing about this area, and they're just going to pub stories, and he said, she said, and you'll give me that much, or you'll put it into a mile. It's just absolutely. He wanted me to say loads of things about Davey, and I said, no chance. Yeah, Davey's my pal. You know, I said, I see Davey, I haven't seen him for a long time. I started seeing him with Gilsey years ago. We had a few drinks again.
Yeah.
Give me a cuddle. That nice lad. That's no problem whatsoever with the lad. Good great kid. But him to keep dragging things up and calling Lee's mum on.
Even Lee.
Calling Lee's. I was talking to his uncle Rod the other day.
Rod's a great
Rod. Thanks for speaking the other day. And Rod said
great
to me,
bloke, Rod.
he never gave any content whatsoever to them Lee Duffy books. He was telling everyone Rod give content. He didn't give any. Rod Jones, speaking to Rod the other day, and he was at length about an hour or so. He said never give anything was given to the family, the money or nothing. Yeah. So that was all lies again. So
I'd like to see Rod, the likes of him and John Black and
he's in ill health at the minute, Rod, but he get better, mate.
Yeah, me too, Rod. The likes of Rod himself, John Black, even a lad younger than them, John Howard and John Green.
Brilliant lad, John Green.
Great bloke. They were last of the hard, man. They were
brilliant.
Last of the hard, man.
Brilliant.
And John's been not very well lately.
Great
bloke, and I've got a good story to tell about him when I come on to Richard. And it concerns us at one time when we were down and out as a family, helplessly. But I'll tell the story in detail. And we were homeless. Right. And John Green come up with the offer of this superb house in Thornaby. Him and his wife Carol, and helped us out a lot. And we were living at John's when Richard started doing really well with his athletics. So Richard and myself and my family have a lot to thank John Green and Carol Green for the great people, lovely people.
Yeah, fantastic.
You cannot
brilliant boxing trainer.
Very good. And not only that, my brother years ago, he used to knock about with Keeler Bradshaw. Keeler, another great lad, Stockton lads, Chinky, all them lot, all football hooligans. And my brother Ray said when they used to go to Redcon on a Sunday, after the football match the Saturday before, they'd all go there with the skinheads. And the pub they stayed away from was where John Green worked on the door there. He said, because he could sort anyone out. No problem.
And he was another fantastic vet, Maxie Smith.
Maxie Smith.
People used to say he was in his 50s and he was boxing. It was brilliant to say. He's fit for his age. I said he's fit for even if he was 20.
Yeah, he's
a man fit for 50. I said super guy. He used to always come down and see me when I worked where Paul Owens used to be a lovely bloke for the Berlins used to always come. He was around the corner. He used to dress like Frank after always immaculate tie and big diggy bow and all that. And he always used to come round. He used to go at in time, have a drink, come pop home and see me. Lovely man, Maxie.
He's a great bloke, Maxie. Very, very hard trainer, very clever.
Very.
And obviously, there's a bloke called Mike Russell writing, which is going to be, I think, a really great book about Maxie. Some great stories about his boxing career, about him being in the Marines and that, and him having a lovely family.
I remember me and John went to see him at the gym and went, when I forgot to meet, I was like a bit like starstruck, like, he's brilliant because he was showing us a jab. And he said, what you do, big fella? He says, these bodybuilders, give him a bat on the nose. Was the love the cell always in the middle of and I always remember him telling, probably won't remember it himself, but I remember him telling me, give him a bat on the nose. He said, when you break the nose, like, oh, my nose, and they start crying. He said, they're full of muscle, but it doesn't make them tough, he said.
He's a great man, Maxie. Actually, another thing he did, and I don't know whether you remember, but years ago, and I wouldn't say it was a true sophisticated, but it was advertised 1981 and 1982 on Maxie's boxing shows, which I boxed on a couple of them actually. I was ringside in the corner with Sean Flanagan, my cousin, who's still training like hell, like a possessed madman now at 63 nearly. And anyway, Maxie had this Cleveland Strongest Man competition on. And I went totally into bodybuilding then. I was into a little bit of running, done a little bit of boxing training, but quite a lot of weights. And anyway, in 1981 and 2, I won the Cleveland Strongest Man twice. Then obviously, if someone like yourself was about,
I was only 16 then,
or Craig Howard, even, you know, them days. But it was just local lads went in the pubs. Cyril Banks, brilliant, good bloke. Cyril,
he used to train the Co-op
Club. We always asked him about it.
Oh, lovely man, Cyril.
He was telling us about the time he'd done a bit of sparring with John Black.
Yeah.
And you know, in the Co-op, he said, "How we get the ring on?" He said, and he had his gloves off, you know. John jabbed him a couple of times on the nose and that, you know.
John could have a
but some good stories as we go on about John Black as well. Really good, clever bloke, you know. We're getting on to the prison things again. It's not a nice place to be. And you see these kids going about now, and I don't know whether it's me, but every couple of weeks you see, there's a shotgun fired at a car or a window, and some of them have got access to shotguns. And I mean, you fired weapons yourself. I fired proper weapons, MP5s, SLRs, legally proper weapons.
I did myself,
know how to handle them, know what.
Yeah.
And these are firing a shotgun, which you literally, they shouldn't be doing it, cannot miss with, and from 5 meters away, missing a car. They might as well go and egg someone's windows. You know, you get a slap on the wrist with it. You know?
And the thing is, you get caught with it, you go to jail for 10 years.
Yeah, you get caught with a firearm.
A firearm, you're looking at 5. If you get caught with ammunition, you're looking at 10 years.
Yeah.
You get caught with extinguishing it in the street. You got to remember, you know, there's a lot of kids being killed and old people just walking down innocently, so trying to shoot somebody off their head and innocent bystanders. So, yeah, keep away from them firearms.
Same as with the knives as well. It's, you know, not with carrying them. You know.
Well, if you're carrying it, you're going to get caught anyway.
Yeah.
The police, you're going to get charged. And you're going to jail. And it just goes up and up and up to jail, and you're going to jail for carrying what a daft bit of metal. What's all that about? Stupid. You know?
And I know the people who were, some people will go to a gym either to bodybuilding or to a little bit of boxing or martial arts and try to get into that. Some of them for good reasons, and it's very good that they learn self-defense. And Bram again and Heidi are excellent at it. Maxie Smith's excellent at it. You know, great coaches. But the top and bottom of it, I know that Maxie probably does this, and Bram certainly. If he thinks he's training someone out to hurt someone, he will chase them out.
Exactly.
I remember one particular lad, and I don't want to mention his name because he's the son of a good friend of mine, who you know, so I'm not going to embarrass the good friend. But his son could be a bit of a dickhead and fancy himself as an hard case. And he came up Bram's gym above Les Moores, and he walks in, middle of a class, interrupts her. Hey, Bram, shows how to choke people out. I want to do that and fight and this, that, and the other. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, carries on. And this lad's been in and out of jail and wants to learn how to fight for obvious reasons. Big lad as well. Comes in, hey, come on now, he shows now. Come on, learn us how to fight, whatever. Gives a few lessons. Bram holds the class up, goes over, grabs hold of him, chokes him out, shots him down the stairs, says, there's your best lesson for free.
Well, I used to always say to Bram, he was always a good kid from young since he was about 12-year-old. He tells the story when he seen me on the bus, counting loads of money with Nick Osborne. I want to be like Brad Cotler used to say. And then he'd come to me with Ghosty a long time ago, he was like 18, and he wanted to put weight on and give him a die, and he got really strong and big, and he's always been like, I'm like an older brother to him.
It's always like,
I always look after him, and I always just said, when he was running around with a few people, I'd say, get away from him, which you would say to me, because you're a few years older than me. You just say, Brian, keep away from me, he's a wrong one. And if you don't say that to your friend, it's like people who were police informers, and you say, well, why didn't you tell me? Why did you want to say now? You know, you've got to tell your friends, because that's what they're for, you know, family and your friends, you've got to help each other.
Yeah, certainly I've got to, you know, I mean, you see some people, I mean, another sad thing as well as the drug situation. I myself haven't been one who's ever been addicted to drugs, and that. I've had a few pranks played on me the odd time when my great friend Gary Hampton gave us a chocolate flavoured yoghurt, and little be known to me had some cannabis in it, you know. I ended up talking about my grandfather, who apparently I thought was flying these convertible aeroplanes in the war, and that, and I didn't know he'd give us some cannabis and that, you know. And my other great friend, a very good friend of mine, Dachi Thompson, lovely lad. He's played a few tricks on me, and his ex-girlfriend Tracy, who's an immaculate woman, best house I've ever seen, clean, you know. And
I remember when Lee taxed him. And he was verified, and Tracy was his missus, wasn't she? And the kids were there, and they were. I took Lee round to apologise to him, and he apologised, and Tracy, get him out of my house. And anyway, he shook Lee shook his hand, and he was over the moon, actually.
Was that when the taxman tea sat?
He sadly passed away, didn't he?
A lovely lad, and his mum and dad were good and they were funny. You know, a little story I can tell about.
Lived at the bottom of the street, you know.
A little story I can tell about him, and. It's actually comical if you listen to it, but he was forever trying to see people off. I remember him once in John McPartlin's house, and he was folding these bars of soap, palm olive together, making it into a kilo and wrapping it up with a sellotape, getting it right, making it into a kilo. And anyway, Mac was saying to him,
But years ago, Kevin, soap bars was what the calipers was. You get 4 bars for 9 ounces each.
Yeah.
That's what he's done about. Yeah.
And he got these soap bars, thingied them up, and was wearing them. And he was obviously going to sell them for 1,800 quid. These palm olive soap, you know.
Yeah.
And as he's got them ready to put away, Mac turns round and says, "That's not heavy enough. That doesn't weigh a kilo." He said, "Don't fucking spoil them, for fuck's sake." And then anyway, he'd seen a few people, and he'd somehow owed some lads, some Liverpool lads, money, proper gangsters.
Yeah.
And I think the new Steve Small, big Steve Small, they knew him, and anyway, that owed these people a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he was driving around with a friend called Bry Jules, a very innocent, quiet lad, never been in trouble in his life at all, ever. And anyway, Bry Jules, he'd been in the car doing some joinery work for Dachi. Dachi's owed these Scousers money, and Dachi used to have a habit of sitting down in the seat with his eyes above, and I'm driving him about. I went into any crime, just doing him some favours, driving them about. You saying, drive down out, watch the Scousers aren't there, watch the Scousers aren't there. And he's looking shitting himself. Watch the Scousers, and I'm just laughing at it. Anyway, this one day, is that a make there? Is that a make there? And Bry Jules, who's got nothing to do with the innocent, they've been in trouble in his life in the back. Dachi, you're paranoid. The Scousers aren't after you. So I drove round Briar Road. Dachi's in the front of the car. He's looking out back saying, "Is that the Scousers, Kev?" I said, "It's a Mercedes." He said, "A Mercedes, that's them. And he opens the car door going 30 mile an hour and fucking jumps out the car over the wall, nearly kills himself. And I'm pissing myself, laughing, driving. And Bry Jules starts laughing. He says, "Fucking hell, is it the Scousers?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "Do they know what that she looks like?" I said, "No." He said, "Fuck that arm off." And he jumps out the car and rolls over. And he's me in the car driving. I remember
going to yours, and Dachi would have a bit of whatever. Loads of people on bits and bobs.
Yeah.
You got Kevin, you haven't taped me, you Kevin?
Oh,
searching the pens and everything.
Because
Kevin
used to be into surveillance.
He was into surveillance, obviously. He knew all about it. Kevin, is that a pen? That pen has got a camera in it. But you're stripping everything in the out wall, everything off the walls.
Everything. My training shoes, the lot.
Kevin, I know you're bugging me. Come on, I know you're bugging me. And you'd be laughing. And you'd laugh more because he'd make you laugh. But he's both doing Brian, you're bugging me as well.
It was so comical. He'd go into the house and he'd go, and he'd have a pen and he'd be going, picking it apart. It's not booked, is it? Because I did used to buy some books and that, and listening devices and listen to wall devices, and I knew a lot of it through my brother Brian, who's an expert at it, you know.
But another one was Dachi. He went on the steroids. The normal people go on and have a shot a week or 1 or 2 shots a week. He was taking a full 10 shots. What are you in one day? Well, so I had 5 mil of one cheek, 5 mil the other cheek a day. What are you about?
Actually, what he was taking, I remember once, because it didn't work for him because of whatever he was doing. So he had these 10 ml bottles of Test and Decker. And he's saying to me, you know, how many would a bodybuilder take that? I said, 1 a week. He said, how many's in there? I said, I think there's 10 in there, Dash. And he says, all right, I need to see one of the lads from the gym. I'm getting a load. I went in one day and he had a stack of them up there, so-and-so, so-and-so. And I said, how many are you taking? He said, I'm taking 6 a week. 2 on a Friday, 2 on a Monday, 2 on a Wednesday, 2 on a Friday. I said, you mean 2 shots?
Yeah.
He said, no, 2 10 ml bottles. So he's taking 2 10 ml bottles, which was 20 shots.
I don't think killed 20
on a Monday,
20
shots on a Wednesday, 20 shots on a Friday. Enough to kill an elephant.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I know that for the fact, because he said to me, he's about to say, can you expect the mix of them? What? I said, just have one of each. So he'd have 20 mil. Yeah.
No, just say everybody's saying that that blip didn't matter.
They
said it's absolutely fine out, and they said it's great hearing these stories, and they just keep going with them because they're excited.
It's some great stories about that.
What about the nightclubs you used to work in?
Well, going back to the nightclubs, how I started was going into the nightclub side of it, which I hadn't yet. I was working at the baths as a lifeguard, and the first job I had at Stockton Baths, but it was the older Stockton Baths with the diving boards.
Yeah.
And I had a great son in Paul Owens, and them used to go there. Big Robbo, Javadu was the great nightclub owner, used to go. Some really good people, Les Moore. So anyway, I worked as a lifeguard, and Denny Oil worked there with me. And it was then that we were starting to get into, we were fit, very fit. We could run, we could swim, a little bit of boxing training, even though we weren't boxers as such, and started getting into the weight training with our great friend George Price. And then eventually we were getting that good with the bodybuilding that we tended to leave the fitness side of it alone, you know. And I got a job, my first job was at Corporation Hall, which the council owned. It was like a punk skinhead club for kids on a Monday. And I went and got a job there, and I was getting £7 a night. And from then I went and got a job at Superstars, which was old Bianco's. And I ended up getting a doorman's job there when I was only a young lad, actually. Very naive I was.
Regent Street,
Prince Regent Street. And at that time, I ended up having working on the door for me. Sean Flanagan came and worked. Tommy Pickering, my great friend, he come and worked. Tommy, the great Lenny Kirk, who died, great bloke. And Tommy's brother, Jimmy, worked there. Colin Kinder, quite a few people. And it was a really nice nightclub, you know. And I remember one time we were... me and Lenny, we didn't know some of the gypsies at the time. It wasn't the gypsies who were such as now, some of the lads you know. It was some older crowd came and caused trouble. And to be honest with you, we were in that good a shape, me and Lenny Kirk. You know, we fettled quite a few of them ourselves cleanly, you know. And Lenny was a very, very tough lad, karate expert. You know, he later died of cancer, but a lovely bloke. Then from there, I went and worked with another great Thornaby lad, Gary Jordan. I worked with Gary for a while. He was only very young at the time. I think he was only 19 and a dorm.
It was a mistake in for me. Gary Jordan broke his jaw.
He had a look at you. And Gary was head dorm there. And John Duggan worked there. Jimmy Wilson, another great lad. You know, all tough lads. And there was tough lads about Stockton at the time there. Went and we worked there for a bloke called Laurie Pig. Can you ever remember Laurie Pig?
No.
He was proper Dr. Death looking thing. People used to say pig by name, pig by nature. But anyway, then I went on to working with another great lad called Paul Owens, great friend of mine. Tough lad, judo over England, as good as.
Not a bully in any way, always smart as a carrot dress, used to go in Berlin's.
Berlin's type, you know.
Berlin's was like in Stockton, but it was like everybody from Thornaby went there.
Went there as well,
never known to Lenny Paul would just ship.
He would help anyone. But Paul was excellent with the judo for Great Britain, and so was our friend Little Aki, who we just talked about earlier on.
Fantastic.
Aki, very, very good, you know.
He put his hand on your neck, and Bram will tell you this. He put his hand on your neck and you pass out. He just knows all these point pressure points. I mean, he's had people who's trained in girls that have gone to the Olympics and all.
Absolutely. Well, in our pub, obviously in the pool room, I'm going to do a feature there where obviously we're Richard and Dovey, Richard world champion, and I'm going to put a few other people on who have been local fighter type of things, as in the sport. Paul Owens, obviously I'll put a couple of things on about Bry, and Aki, we're going to have a photo of him, Marty Mandeville, quite a few others, Mark White, who was a boxer there. You know, so we're going to have it like a bit of a feature thing for them.
You want to be the main one.
Things to talk about, And obviously, we need one of the Stockton Stranglers.
You know,
Bram.
Probably Heidi as well.
And Heidi,
She could be in the middle, Heidi, the little. You look at that, you wouldn't melt them out, but she's tough as nails.
She's very much is. I remember one time, I don't know whether Paul Owens will remember, because Paul used to take working on the door as a bit of a, to him it was just a bit of a joke, you know, and we worked for Big Robbo and that. And we used to go for a drink, we could wear just jeans and t-shirt, and at the time I was in very, very good shape, not particularly big bodybuilding shape, about 13 stone, and you know, and anyway, t-shirts on, jeans, and we'd go to Carlo's pub, the Dolphin, before, and Carlo worked in the bar actually after the Dolphin. And he was like the barmaid off Copacabana, jumped over the bar, fighting everyone, Carlo, and didn't give a shit, great bloke. And anyway, Paul, I remember one night some Irish lads there and someone causing chihuahua went on at the time. And one of them was coming over towards me.
Right.
And I remember Paul saying, just leave it, Kevin. And he hit him with a straight right hand on the nose, broke his nose, dragged him up the spiral stairs, trying to throw him literally into the river.
Yeah.
Stupid, but could have been really fatal. Yeah. But he was a bad lad, actually. Yeah. Paul, calm down. What are you doing that for? Next week we're in, there's a fight taking place. I said, Paul's a fighter. He said, just leave him. It was like fucking Roadhouse, you know the film?
Yeah.
Like Roadhouse. Paul's there looking at them. And they're fighting, and he might be shouting to someone, go on, Eddie, give him it. So he's a doorman there. I'm a doorman there.
He's like
and he's encouraging them to fight. Hey, he's just been talking about you, will you? Yeah. Okay, we'll have a couple of hours and that. Next minute, someone come down scrapping properly, and Paul, boom, out, whisk him up the stairs, and then I had to stop Paul, shot him overboard. Yeah. But he was a really good lad, Paul. As I say, I invited him on his first date with his wife to the Rocket pub, which John Pugh's mum and dad, another lad who worked on the door, me, big John Pugh.
I'll tell you what, when you went on the one, the Forbidden Planet, that was the
Forbidden Planet.
Forbidden Planet. I knew I'd remember it.
Yeah.
The film, the Forbidden Planet,
Yeah, and then from then, I remember going into my first bodybuilding competition. It was December '82, and I was really ripped up. I got advice from Craig Howard, he told us how to diet. And I weren't big, I was only about 11.5, 12 stone. But I was really ripped up to shreds, striations. And my great friend Denny Oy was in it at the time.
Yeah. His mum lived, he lived the same street as me. He lived at the top.
Yeah.
I lived in Roseworth.
That's right, he lived in Roseworth, didn't he? Yeah. And Denny didn't place anywhere. Because he'd tell you at the time he was quite smooth, good physique, great physique, but smooth. But he won the closer of the night show. And anyway, after that, Denny got his head together, and the competitions we went after that quite a few times. He beat me, Yeah. And then another time we were the last time I competed, I beat Denny, but Denny got to a good standard for his height. I think he came 5th in the universe. Yeah. Another time,
he was good, wasn't he? Brown.
Marty Brown, Marty's still in great shape now. Very great shape, Marty.
And the best is Eddie when he was
John Citrone and
Eddie Elwood.
Eddie Elwood. I think if you look on persistence of bodybuilding, Eddie Elwood's family, Sherry's mum, great shape.
But to do that many years in a row is phenomenal, because it's hard just to get ready for one show and every man training for the universe, and win it, and then having to do it again because the pressure's on you again and again and again. The determination and to do that, to sheer willpower.
Well, the persistence of Eddie when he first started training. I remember, I think it was about 83 or 4. He went in the Junior North Britain and won it, and his back had terrific detail on, really good detail for a junior. And then he went and advanced.
Sorry about the dog. He's jumping all over the
It's gone Packers tonight, hasn't it? Everything's gone mad.
What's him at? He's under there. He's trying to get into he's trying to get on camera. Strap me down. That dog's good boy.
Yeah, going back to Eddie.
We've got everything going on tonight, haven't we?
No, but everyone's saying it's marvellous.
Yeah, it's just, it's better than all these television studio things. Just a bit.
Yeah, Eddie, I first met him with Denny Oil in Peter Cardigan's gym at Bishop Auckland in '85. And he had a great physique then. He'd done boxing before and that, and great physique. But he became great at being persistent and religious in his training and diet and persistence. And I think he beat or equaled Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He beat his record.
Which
and I think Arnold
magnificent.
I sent him a letter.
Unbelievable. And literally, if Eddie had have had the right agent about them days, he'd have been in films, no doubt about it. If you look at
was it a film when he was in
one of the Bruce Willis ones?
Bruce Willis.
But if you look at Arnold, he got into films and a superstar.
Yeah.
Actually, Eddie in lots of ways would have looked the part better than Arnold.
No disrespect,
and
Arnold,
could talk better, you know.
He couldn't talk.
No,
and he made £600 million. So
Eddie would have been a great actor, and he's a great bloke, and he's stands up for a lot of things, sticks by his gym. A very honourable man, you know. And be good for you and Eddie to do maybe a podcast sometime, because I know you respect him a lot, right?
Of course, And loads of idiots in the past, of course. He said this when he said that, and she said, when you get older, you realize it's just people causing trouble.
Well, I remember even in your book, The Taxman, where the author wrongly worded it totally. That Eddie Elwood was in the club, blah, 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 and you went over, but it wasn't what you were doing. You were giving Eddie compliments, saying there was a bloke who thought he looked like
what I was trying to give as you can't see in the book. I was trying to say the lad was as big as Eddie Elwood, and he hit him, knocked him out. He went down. He might have been big, but he didn't look good on the foot. But he told me being full of drugs at the time, proofread the book. It was my own fault, really. So,
and I went up and spoke to Eddie about that.
I wouldn't do that. You know, I wouldn't say something that never happened.
And you always used to get people blowing up fights, or Big Bry, you're going to fight Ernie Buick, going to fight Viv Graham, going to fight Eddie Elwood. I mean, it's great that you and Eddie never ever actually need to fight. People like that don't, and I don't like to see that now. I'd love that all the old people who've got enemies, if they're nice people, if all these people, no matter what we've done before, if we can be nice people, I think everyone should be talking. But there is a couple of assholes who are unforgiven.
In this world, you always get people who love causing trouble.
A couple of them,
He said, she said, he said, all that rubbish. And can't be bothered with it all now. All I want to do is get up every day with my wife and just help people and just give good advice to kids out there. Don't carry knives, whatever you do, because you're going to end up in home house or jail first, or you end up in the grave. So
I mean, you know, people say now, you know, Bri, obviously you've been, you know, renowned national, worldwide. Even my friend tonight in Scotland's looking in John Bewist, great friend.
John, mate.
Great, the one you've got a photo of. They all idolise you up there. And just not long ago, even though we were chatting, I'd never considered myself as a fighter, but I could look after myself and I could hit really hard. And but I weren't bothered about getting the odd bat neither. But I wouldn't proclaim to be a fighter, but I hated bullies. And I can remember not that long ago, only about a few years back, I was walking over to my old house at Anchorage Mews over Teesdale. And I'd done this for a reason. I'm not telling people on here to do it, but this is what I used to do. If I'm walking a Mazda, I'd go in and I'd maybe just, even if I didn't now, I'd get a carrier bag and a tin of beans and a tin of tomatoes. And I'll tell you why, just to carry them home with me, because I like them nutrition-wise. They're very good for you anyway. I prefer the plum tomatoes than the chopped tomatoes, actually. And as I was walking home one night, luckily these came in handy. There was two young thugs driving past me, and one of them clipped me on the back of the head, like, not hard, but, "How then, you baldy fucker?" You know. I said, "All right, lads, try to be all right." We back again. "Didn't you hear me? How then, you baldy fucker?" Come round again, and I thought, I'll wait the cop in. I said, "Here, mate," he come at the tin of beans right on the back of the head. Really heavy joke. But I was defending myself. If you listen to the police, I was in fear for my safety, my life, this old man. And the other one who come, ran away, and luckily, with the tin of tomatoes from about 20 metres away, it was just purely luck, I caught him on the back of the neck. But if you're ever going to use these tins of beans or tins of tomatoes for self-defence, use Asda's own make, because them, the baked beans, the orange ones, are quite expensive, and the Branston's even dearer, you know, so don't be using them.
But you were full of beans.
Full of beans at the time,
And another story is funny. Someone said it's not the beans that actually make you fart, it's the beans juice.
Beans juice,
so, that's a tip for you. I'm full of all this knowledge. So
going back to a couple of stories on the doors. Well, some great lads work with me at Bentley's. Lovely lads. Little Adish was a glass collector at that time. He's lost his way at the moment, Adish, and I don't mind saying it. There's not many people I'll say that, but I don't mind saying it. He's lost a bit of respect for the people who he should respect. I've tried to help him out a few times. In fact, there was a lad down at Middlesbrough once. He might still be about now. if he does, he's just a little fucking asshole anyway. They called him Plod, and he was threatening to shoot Addish's brother's wife and what have you, and Addish and this, that, and the other. And he came to my house once at Winniebanks, and he said, have you seen Addish lately? You like Addish, you stick up for him, don't you? And I said, what's the matter with you? And he pulled out this 410 shotgun. He said, when I see Addish, I'm going to give him that.
Yeah.
And Addish actually, for some reason, avoided me for a while. But even though he had, I turned round to Plod and said, see that gun you've got there, you little scruffy cunt.
Yeah.
Addish would stick that up your ass and knock you out. I said, if you don't piss off now, I will.
Yeah.
I never seen him again. But the lad was a down and out dickhead, this lad. Yeah. But Addish, he lost his way and for some reason was paranoid everyone was against him. And sadly lost his way and doesn't, bother with people now. Not like another one of our great friends who I'm going to mention, Mark Johnson, who was
that was good lad,
a really good lad. I mean, Mark should be advertising for Colgate because I've not seen him once without seeing him laughing.
No,
I've actually seen him fighting and laughing.
The same day, his brother Ali trained with me. Two black lads they are.
Two great lads.
Absolutely brilliant. One of the best friends we had. Ali, I used to train him. I'd go, one more rep and he'd do one. And he can do about 15 reps. He'd be thrown up and everything. But he put more weight on, they got stronger. He done one when I squatted 8 plates. The first time I ever squatted 8 plates, he spotted me. Little then, but I used to do, as you know, I went to every gym then doing these people. He never done this, he hasn't done that, he hasn't benched 6 plates. And when Michael used to spot me all the time with 6 plates.
These anyone who says that, Brad was great at quite a lot of exercise, and everyone has a favourite exercise. He was great at squatting, very good at deadlift, very good 450 kilo. I think Eddie Elwood done a 500 kilo once, didn't he? But going back to Bry, he was excellent. And I remember him doing the leg press in Bill Boyd's, and it was on a Friday night, and there was myself there was Addish, there was Ali and Mark Johnson, and he was doing the leg press, and he was going up and up and up and up, and there was literally no more weight left in the gym to do. And he got on it, and I said, we need to get the Bry Mark, because his legs are going to buckle here. So we pushed it up with Bry, 2 on each end, me and Mark on one end, Ali and Addish on the other. He gets it up, and we and that could just get it up. And then Bry's got it, and his legs are shaking. I mean, how much was on Bry?
£2,000.
£2,000, I think.
I think all the weights on.
£2,010.
We had to put the. If you count the machines, probably more. But £2,000, we ended up with the 50 key dumbbells and 40s and everything.
And Bill Boyd was shouting over.
You've got to brave machine.
The foundations is not very strong. Very strong. And shaking. And I said, Bry, are you sure? Leave it. And he brought it down, and I actually thought his legs were going to snap. And as he got it down, he didn't move it, he couldn't move it, and he said, get the weight. And we panicked. Obviously, he realised he couldn't lift it off hard. And then all of a sudden, he gets his legs pressed and saying, you silly bastards, put some more weight on. Silly fuckers, yes. How are you, Addish? You jump on there, Ali. And we went out in shock, unbelievable. I don't think there's many people in the world ever leg pressed that amount.
I did 850 key in Home House.
Yeah.
And Side Valley was Chris Cunny, remember Chris and people like that, they were all there, it's all on the wall and everything. But get these idiots in. I mean, I remember I used to do upright rowing when you used to be there. I was 140 key upright rowing. I was doing close grip bench press with. When I'm on the thing, people said he's not that good at bench. I wasn't doing bench, I was doing triceps.
I've
got 3 plates each end. I was doing triceps. I used to warm up with 3 plates each end on a squat, because that was my party piece. People say, how much can you squat? I used to say about 140 kg. So we'd go, Bob Raw was one of them, went with them, and we'd go in and go. So he'd go in and put a plate on, and I'd put 3 on each end, and he'd go, what are you doing? I went, warming up. He went, I thought you couldn't squat 140. Oh, I thought you'd been warming up. And I said, no, this is the piss. I remember going up to 9 plates and never ever got it. It pissed me off. But I nearly got it a few times. I had to get a touch with it. But Michael spotted me quite a few times.
Michael did quite a lot.
He spotted me with 365 key. I did with Michael.
Yeah, Mike was very dedicated with his really diet. Because at first he didn't have a great physique at first, you know. And I actually, in a chuffed way, I think it was myself who not introduced him, who encouraged him to train, and Sean had a good physique as well. But Michael was very dedicated very dedicated.
What a field.
And Sean was a good ferocious boxer, you know. And believe it or not, he's running up Rosebery Top and that now, 63-year-old nearly, and very, 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 very fit, very fit. Years ago, we used to call them the Fighting Flanagans, you know. And but yeah, they were both good mates. But obviously, my cousin, the man just died recently. My Auntie Veronica, great woman. But all these people who we can mention about who worked on the doors and that, going through them doors. I mean, Javed Amadou was literally king of clubs, and eventually he got me somewhere.
He got the thing, he didn't even award 5 years.
Oh, he got the
was
he got the awards there for nightclub of the year, you know. Literally 4 years running. And I was actually at Dorman 3 of them years running. I was at Dorman through another great friend of ours, Kev Scott. I'd retired.
Oh, Kevin's brilliant. And I was in jail with his son, actually. His son.
Yeah.
And Ali Johnson, I love him a bit. I seen him in Colby a couple of years ago. Come and see me, Ali, anytime. You know where I live. Love him a bit. And Mark's the same. Mark was one of the ones when I went looking for Lee. That was the night I went looking for Lee.
Yeah, you and him.
We phoned you straight away.
Yeah, and was it you? Didn't you jump on the car and the car stopped?
Yeah, him and Craig out of the car and that started through, and he went to Peter Rowe to try and get him to leave it alone type of thing. So we phoned you that night because the girl that was out then days, you were the best person I knew until he tried to get them. It was a big massive phone. There was £600. They would have killed his phones and everything. The best tax I had was because he had this phone. I wanted to get a phone the same
day. Nokia, the big one.
I ended up in this lad and get £700. I went to carry the phone and got the phone. They were a fortune. But they were brilliant though, weren't they? Because you get paid with them and all sorts. Yeah. But the true story.
I mean, without dwelling on to the fight with Lee, and obviously after it, and he was proclaiming this, that, and the other. But Brian, I won't go into detail now because I'm going to go into detail about that in the next one.
Yeah.
But Brian at the time had a badly broken arm, and Lee Duffy hit him with probably the hardest punch he's ever thrown in his life. And people said this, that, and the other. And all that Brian did was not give way. He went into a semi-squat position to absorb it and grabbed out of them, and there was no movement. But going back to that after this, because I want to tell that story in detail later, Brian was going looking for Lee, and what was happening is before Lee would go in the pub, he would double check that Brian Cockrell was elsewhere. Yeah. Usually with Mark Johnson or someone 5 mile away, and if he was 5 mile away, he'd then go in and maybe say, "Oh, have you seen Brian Cockrell?" But in the end, he made a beeline, and it's good that he did, and he just became friends together.
They said the Cockrell was an unstoppable force. What was it? He said?
Unmovable object.
Unmovable object.
He said, what
was the other lad?
Dave Thomas.
Dave Thomas said he had done his head in for months. He said, "I've hit this lad called Scotch Brian from Redcower. Through this, you must have punched him. You can't have punched him." I said, "I did." I hit him and he wobbled a bit, but he didn't go down. He said, "Couldn't believe it."
Well, when he used to punching people and knocking out Brian,
he was going for it when he said, "I hit the best shot I could muster. I couldn't drop him." He said, "Just probably when he grabbed me, he just threw me on it right."
I can remember one person talking to me once, you know, because quite a few times I'd seen you fighting Brian the time when you caused some, and to be honest with you, it was when you were provoked, and one of them, which I'll talk with later on, keeps saying later on, as if I'm not giving information.
Yeah,
he really literally dismembered someone's face and that, and someone said to me, "How hard can Bry hit?" And I remember saying to them, I said, "Listen," I said, "if I've been there and Bry was to hit someone and it didn't go down, I said, I'd walk around the fucking back and see what was holding them up."
Yeah.
He wasn't. I can remember another time Bry with Elvis Tomo was in bad shape now, but Bry was even going over the borderline with his bank doing some sprint. So he wasn't doing just the weight training.
Training on the back. John Black used to teach me, and they go on the pads all the time, and when I met any Buick, he would come down and I went on the bag and I was messing about with the bag, pretending I couldn't hit it, and I went on there and he went, "Jesus Christ, you could knock a wall down with that punch, that right hand." He said, "Unbelievable." He said, "Your hand speed for your size," and Duff used to say, he defied the laws of physics. He said, you can't be that big and be that fast. It's impossible.
And sometimes you didn't have to throw them that far away. You see, someone to get that force needed to throw it left.
Richie Horsey, the great Northern Wood fighter from Article, said, you only throw it about 3 or 4 inches and you knock them out. It's unbelievable.
You can imagine the power behind that.
It's a dip in it. It's the way you throw it. Little Frank Yaffin, God rest his soul, out there. My name is friend, lovely man, fought at Madison Square Garden. He taught me as well. Ray Hood.
Yeah.
We used to have the place at Lingdale. We used to go over little bucko.
Frankie Yaffin thought the world of you, didn't he? Frank was a great bloke in money. Yeah. And I can remember another time someone came up to me because those times, not the reason.
Kevin, can I interrupt you?
Yes, of course you can.
You were with Brian the day that Brian and Lee. I'm glad that they had this scuffle because they ended up being great friends and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
We've got the Stokesy stalker on, obviously. Brian was done in by Lee in a terrible state and stuff like that. But it's just, you were there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell them briefly, but I'll go into the story later on. But I can tell people.
Well, this is the idiot from Stokes. This is thinks he knows.
I've got to say that you've never conducted
I was actually at 8 years old.
Just so everyone can know about this, right? He was probably 8-year-old at the time.
Knew nothing.
But this is the score. Without going into detail, I'll go into detail
still
later.
Stalking us, as you can see.
It's now Kevin's like on drugs, so I'll go.
Actually, took a drug in you there. He's right. I'm on drugs. I'm on a blood thinner.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm on Lansoprazole, Jamie. You know
why last week when you phoned the police, it never worked.
And by the way, also, even though I didn't want to interrupt it,
we weren't even going to mention it.
Let's not give it space.
But I'll just say this once.
Yeah.
Jamie, I'd love to bump into you, not to do anything.
Just
have a chat because at my age, 63, I don't want to be going to jail, but I'd love to grab your neck and choke you like a little chicken that you are. And the top and bottom of it, when Lee Duffy and Bri had the fight, Bri didn't have one mark on his face. No. Lee Duffy hit him with a punch that would have, at the time, probably knocked Frank Bruno out, but it didn't knock Bri out. It's as simple as that. You've lost your way. What you should do is make yourself what you are, a flasher, a cross-dresser, a transgender, and go and throw yourself in Southgate where there's a big tide and tell the police to come to me, because I don't mind, even at my age, having a few nights in the cells just thinking about all the great times me and Bri have had and that we're going to have. Because you were a loser. You're the only person who I know started at the bottom in life and went down over. You're lower than a snake's belly.
And that's all the airspace you get in your bus. So please tell some more great stories.
This is what I'm trying to tell the people on here. It's non-stop stalking my page every day, every night.
And bless some other lads and
all these people.
I'm getting all these comments and they're sticking up for us and they're even calling Chrissy's mum and stuff. Everyone knows who it is.
And I'm surprised that some of the good people, and there's probably a couple of good lads who I won't name, who are still having something to do with Jamie Boyle.
It's just
local lads, get rid of him. He's a snake. He's a cross between a rat and a ferret and a weasel.
He's horrible.
His claim to fame is blah, blah, blah. But all you Teesside lads, please, get rid of that bum. But let him get on and tell him to get married to Alex Reid. Him and Jamie should get married.
Yeah, perfect.
Because he's no fighter, Alex Reid. No. Like Jamie, he once went...
Like Bram said, let him come down here and so long he lasts when he gets older.
There's a big story about Jamie Boyle and Alex Reid going 3 rounds on a heavy punch bag and they fucking got beat on points. They got beat on points.
And all this rubbish and that's why no one wants to talk to him. Nobody bothers with him. He lies. He just sits there taking whatever. Non-stop, and that's why I had to get rid of him.
But now, young Kevin, get back what you're doing. Brilliant.
Thank you for all the viewers have just knocked us up. Thank you.
So, can you tell some more sort of great stories?
Yeah, of course we can.
Right.
Can you remember the time when I?
Right. What about John McPartland? You said you were going to.
I'm going to leave that till.
I'm going to leave that till a little bit later on. In the next program.
Can you remember me?
But I will give people a bit of a warmer for it. I will say this much about it. John McPartland, who was the husband of my sister Maureen, and one of my biggest, if not biggest, regrets in life was to fall out with my sister Maureen. And the night I fell out with her, I remember she come in, there was a local lad in my house who'd been slagging Mac, and Maureen did the honourable thing and picked up my baseball bat and battered him with it, you know. Yeah. And me and Maureen had a bit of a fallout. I wish I'd never fell out with her, you know. And that song, like Sister and Brother, always reminds me of Maureen. And I've got some great stories to tell about her and some good stories to tell about Mac. Yeah. But Mac was the person, and I'm going to go into some stories in detail, and because I'm going to talk to a solicitor next week to say what I can say.
What's legal.
And the solicitor is a great solicitor, a great friend of mine, and he's called Sean Flaherty. Yeah. Good lad, not corrupt, very straight. Yeah. You'll know him because he used to look like Marty Pello, but better looking.
Right.
If you're listening, better looking.
That's the lad used to be with
Barry Stewart.
Yeah, I remember him.
Great, lovely.
He was only a young lad at the time. He was always Barry. Took him on his wing and
took him on his wing. Yeah.
You probably remember me because Barry used to represent me, and Barry was a funny bloke, and I was up at court for a fight. I broke someone's jaw allegedly, and with 15 witnesses, and I never turned up, and he had that Marilla code, the judge, and he went, if I was to call that a cow, I'd be insulting the four-legged animals. So he said, and his best friend was Angus Stroyne, one of the judges.
Yeah, Angus Stroyne, yeah.
They were old-fashioned Joe, and you got on the wrong side of them.
Yeah, I've got a story where I might be able to tell when when Mac and myself kidnapped someone for Barry Stewart. I might deny it if I was arrested, but it gets to quite a comical stage, and Angus Stroyne's involved in this story for next week. I'm not just doing it to goad you on.
No,
I get legal advice to do it, but John McPartland was one of the people, one of the three people, who the story was allegedly that in 84 to 87 locally, and they can't do now to John now, he was one of the allegedly clever men who robbed post offices, and there was quite a lot of them, and they were nicknamed the Northeast Night Shift, and never ever got caught. And they got a bit of claim to fame for the simple reason, even though they were robbing off the post offices, the thing that made them pretty famous was they never ever hurt anyone or used weapons, you know.
Yeah. Strategic operation.
Yeah, and they were excellent. Apparently, had surveillance,
like military style.
Yeah, and as I say, he was Mac. He was very generous lad. You know, he'd give anyone money for anything.
I remember he's
very well in with Freddie Foreman, the train robber. You know, he had and another thing.
Money in Liverpool,
Mac died
all over the world.
Yeah, he was. Well, he died in jail, and some people didn't like me, some people didn't like Mac. Yeah. I know Mac thought very well of another great friend of ours who I'm going to mention next week, Ozzy Bingham, who would do anything for anyone. Ozzy would do anything for anyone. In fact, I remember one New Year's Eve when I fell out with Maureen, and Ozzy was saying, Kevin, go back, see her, going back and see her. And a certain lad came into my house for a New Year's drink, big lad, and he was in the front room, and the windows were like an alcove. And he started saying, you should do this to John McPartland, you should do that. And I said, listen, we brothers-in-law, and we've got a sister in between us, and maybe, you know, no one wants to be the winner. There's a no-win situation here. And he started gobbing, and Ozzy went and got the famous aluminium bat again and said, you low-life cunt. Yeah. And this lad, 6 foot, jumped on the windowsill, that like a fucking pigeon, trying to jump on the window with Ozzy swinging the bat at him.
He was funny, he was running stuff, weren't you, and doing fitness stuff, I remember that.
Some good stories.
He was always a little
stocky. He was game, and he loved eating, he loved his Parmos and he's famous, which I don't know whether you remember. He's famous. Garlic mushroom pizza. He used to like garlic.
Big massive mustache. Remember the game Mario?
Very generous, very generous. Give anyone, do anything, anyone. And by the way, Ozzy, I've got a few electrical jobs if you can do with them. I'll pay you with them this time. But I've got a few stories to tell about Ozzy. And it was Ozzy. I don't know whether anyone's seen when John McPartland died. There was a big write-up in the paper about him being a tough man, an old-type gangster, and giving him a bit of praise and up. And the person who written that, I didn't know at the time, was Ozzy. So good on Ozzy for doing them things. As I say, I just wish I'd have made up with Mac, and it was a big regret. And we'll talk about how he died in prison and that. And Maureen is known nationwide. She doesn't want to be a gangster. She was a young, good-looking woman. As my dad said, she just used to get attracted to lunatics, post office robbers, murderers, and whatever. And in fact, I know 2 people who went out, who threw themselves out of fucking flat windows, starting windows, you know. So she's got that thing of looking after men. Like, but another thing I'll say about Maureen is with John McPartland is, if there's ever, and I said this might have upset someone at one time, didn't, but if there's ever a song written for Maureen, it's Stand By Your Man, because she stood by that man, John McPartland, through thick and thin. And I remember going myself, visiting daily at Full Sutton prison, and day after day after day after day. I remember myself, Maureen herself got remanded one time, long before that, something that she didn't do. And she was on remand at Grizzly Preston. And me and my girlfriend at the time, Melanie, went every day over the A66, M6 to Preston to see her, because she could go every day then, Brian, on remand, and see her. And Maureen was in prison with a few of these really, really big publicised people. You remember this girl called Tracy, who was the raid roger? She killed her husband. She had the big advert. He looked a bit evil at me and whatever. Well, Maureen was in prison with her. And Maureen was, we always call it, well, her name in the Sunday Mirror was Britain's big boss, most feared female drug dealer in Great Britain, which maybe she wasn't, but she was game as anything. She chased Lee Duffy out of the house with a fucking shotgun and a few others. She didn't give a shit about no one, still doesn't. And anyway, when Maureen came out of prison, now they're trying to rehabilitate you, and they got Maureen a job just in Winniebanks in this housing association, well-to-do people, solicitors and that. And anyway, the top boss was learning her how to do all the stuff on the computer. And as I say, a year earlier had been in about Maureen McPartland, the big boss, and she didn't want that image. So she's on the computer, and the bloke who's in charge, multimillionaire, teaching her, right, Maureen, can you type that in, so and so, and Maureen's learning. Could you type that in, Maureen? She's learning a lot. And then he says, I tell you what to do, Maureen, Googling this, Maureen McPartland. And she shits herself. Maureen McPartland. Not, shall we type something else? No, type Maureen McPartland in. No much going to come up. And as she's going to type him in, the boss of the place said, it's all right, Mal, I know you're the big boss.
I remember a son, some kids stole the gold. Can you remember the gold chain they stole off him? It was quite a lot of money. And John phoned me from, I got it back for I got it back for the son. And John phoned me from jail and said, Brian, I owe you big sass. I said, no. I said, you know, like family, you know what I mean, John? I said, I wouldn't see you. And you do the same for me. And he thanked me, but he never got to see him again.
At the time when I spoke to Mac a few times, and at the time when I first got to know you went into any crime as such, where you were fighting and things like that, but you were a bundle of knowledge about everything. Obviously, a tough lad, a hard lad, but you weren't dealing in drugs or anything and that. And I can remember you meeting Mac and that, and I remember Mac actually saying he'd be good to have on the team, like, you know. We had some fun them days when it was just there was nobody, it was just our little gang on it. People and there was another time, Brian, I'm not sure whether I should mention it or I could mention it, but I won't say who or where. Where a certain lad phoned me up. It was 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Going in Sunday morning, Monday morning. Are you okay? I won't say who, but I'll tell you off camera. We're just in a garden here. There's me, and there's Brian, there's Mark Johnson. I hope you didn't mind me saying, but I might be lying, but I'm not. And he says, we're just waiting for someone to come in the garden. And what? And what do you think is the best way to get rid of a weapon? Because we're going to shoot him. And says, for fuck's sake, get the fuck away from there now. And they did. And obviously, you know, whether Brian was there or not, I don't know, but, you know.
Mark could have a fight. He was the first person who ever completely.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Put him on his backside outside the King's Head. True story. And the story where, Lee, obviously, it's gone and not, but Tony Stubbs was there. So Jimmy Stubbs was there. All the people in the street were there. I've seen it yourself, John Bale. To these idiots who make these things up 30 years later cause trouble. Carol Edwards knows who was Lee's partner.
Yeah.
He said, Lee said to her, I'm going to make friends with him. He said, I'm going to make friends and we'll end up teaming up, which was a great idea.
What's a good idea? It was a good idea.
It was 30 years ago. People like the stalker is living off that dead man's name and calling that man from the grave, calling him, saying that Paul Sykes would destroyed him, calling his mum, calling his mum evil things. And
he's very lucky, man. You know,
if Lee was here, what would he have done to him? Like, he destroyed him, wouldn't he?
I mean, it's a good job you weren't doing them swimming lessons at South Gale. Storms were in, or he'd be learning to swim.
Well, he is. Everyone knows he's a wannabe. He does the books on gangsters and people like that, and he thinks he's one of them.
Yeah,
he just fills himself with all the crap of the day. And just if you want to have a look to see our night with me and him had from Emma, we had a great night. It's at where was that again? Bishop Auckland. Yeah, we had a great night at Bishop Auckland. Just take a look at Jamie Boyle that night where he's shaking bottles for alcohol and have a look at his condition, and that'll show you what that caliber that man is. There's actually 2 videos on there on my YouTube channel, Brian Cockrell, and it'll show you what Jamie Boyle is, all this pretense and lies and thingy, but it's all coming to an end. It's all coming to an end.
It's like Finney, if you see that film.
Billy Liar. Yeah,
we want to knock out that Jamie Boyle.
Me and Emma were on the bed. I phoned you up that night, didn't I? Kevin, Billy, I think I phoned you. You were going to phone me. I phoned you. I said, I've just seen you. He said, 1 minute he's an author. The next minute he's a filmmaker. He's never made a film in his life.
People saying you a couple of North East legends.
Yeah. We're just trying to make
we just happiness.
Just normal people telling the truth.
We've been through it all. And
Lee did took the head off.
Can you tell the story? Because it's obviously driving some people mad. So can we have some more great stories?
We're going to have some good stories. Obviously, I was saying next week we're going to go into the other story about John McPartland.
We've got some viewers on here, Kevin.
It's going absolutely crackers.
Yeah, it's great.
Some great stories.
Everyone loves you.
And we just going back to that idiot Jamie Boyle. He's not in the class to write about Lee Duffy or Bry or anyone. And he's saying these things that Lee used to go into the pound shop. Pound shops weren't about till after 2000.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
You know, he's a clown. But we don't want to spend our night on that idiot. You know what I mean?
Let's get some of your favourite stories, and then we'll get on our proper track next week. But can you tell us some of your favourite?
Yeah, of course. There's lots of
because obviously it's driving someone mad. So
we're so sorry for you.
Yeah,
just have another drink and calm yourself down.
Yeah, because they're not going anywhere yet. They're telling some of our stories.
Yes, they're going nowhere. We're still talking.
So come on,
when people are dragging you in and saying things like.
Just going back to the crime scene again, which some people remember, especially people from over the border remember, Terry Dicko and that. I think it was 1975. There was a lad convicted on a summer's afternoon for, Terry Dicko will remember more about this, big story. Going into, you know, the church, which is near Sainsbury's?
Yeah.
Went into there and the priest's on duty, just cleaning up and that, and was killed.
Right.
On the afternoon there, 1975. And there's been murders-wise, as you say, we were talking about Reg Wilson.
I was in jail with him.
And some of these stories, I mean, when he was for killing the doctor, Dr. Burkett, at first, they didn't have a clue who it was. My main suspect at the time, for some reason, I don't know why, but I thought that's Ozzy Bingham. That's Ozzy Bingham. He didn't like doctors.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I was actually in jail with him, Kevin. He was there. I think you'll tell your story.
When he actually got sentenced, because I read into crime a lot, his famous words were, "You may contain me, but you'll never control me."
Yeah.
And he'll never get out of prison. But as I say, he was like a little bit of a skinhead, tattoos on.
Yeah, like National Front.
And he obviously killed this doctor. He ended up, after a big investigation, getting caught. And if anyone wants to watch it, on YouTube, if you go into it and type in Reg Wilson murder without a motive,
Yeah.
Murder Without a Motive, Reg Wilson. It'll tell you a bit of the story. And it actually shows you some footage of the police who were involved in the arrest.
Yeah.
It was staged of when he got caught in the phone box on Ackland Road, and they rushed him. And they only caught him through a few simple little things. One of them was, stupidly, a glove where he had a little bit of a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And a hole in his
partial.
Yeah,
That's what got caught the whole while he was telling me the story. I was in the block. I got put in the block. I was telling you about I caused the riot, and we all went on the roof. Everyone knows about the story. And then I caused the Randwick riots.
The Randwick ones,
it stopped it, didn't I? Yeah. And I went on for weeks.
They went on a long time, really.
That's what caused riots right across the country, didn't it?
It was known nationwide, even worldwide,
absolutely.
It couldn't be controlled. And going back to Reg Wilson, he actually stalked this doctor, and the doctor, Dr. Burkett, was an expert in bones and stuff like that, a wizard. And he lived, I think it was Thornfield Road up there, just off Oxford.
Yeah.
And big news. He was battered to death with an hammer,
really bad.
Clubbed to death badly. And they were looking for him all over. And eventually they caught Reg Wilson. But prior to him being caught, he was enticing the police. And he was in a house that was empty in Union Street.
Yeah.
And he phoned up from the telephone box in Union Street saying, there's some burglars in such and such address, Union Street.
Yeah.
Can you get some officers there straight away? From there, he went in the back door of that house, waited there on a dark winter's night with a shotgun. And when the police officers come in, he was just ready to blast them with a pump action.
Well, they told me the story.
Luckily, them officers, when they were coming to the house, were about to walk in the door, and they got called off to a more serious matter. Yeah. Otherwise, it'd have been two policemen dead there.
I told you I was in the block. You used to get put in the block. Then what they used to do, they used to be able to take me out with a dozen screws, 2 dogs, and like a bit like Charlie Bronson type of thing. Because obviously the size, the strength of me, couldn't handle as well. I was the only person as well to wear my own. You know that yourself, to wear my own bottoms because my legs were that big.
You couldn't get. I've never seen Brian with a pair of jeans on yet.
No, never. So anyway, he was underneath me, and he started talking a little bit, and I didn't know who he was. And he was telling me, I said, what it was. He said, I had a hole in the wall, and I had a couple of guns. He said, what I've done, I hate the police. He said, I go to the station, watch the car, see the policeman coming out, like going in or coming out, getting the car, follow the car. And he had car registrations, he had the addresses, and he was going to kill about half a police officers. He had handguns, he had shotguns, he had knives, he had bars, crossbows, he had everything. He was absolutely like, he thought it was Rambo. He thought it was like Rambo.
Yeah, you're fantasies, but like Rambo, very
really dangerous. And I remember a lad, I think he's from Leeds, going.
I think he lived in Winniebanks, don't you?
Yeah. So he was only a little tiny little lad, and but he was super fit. He was in the press ups and sit ups. One of them who could do.
Well, he modeled himself on a SAS person or someone.
Yeah, he's super fit. He'd go like run around the yard, for ages, so doing press ups and that. And he'd pass things up and down and things like that. We used to talk to each other, Mars fast and things. And he was telling me a few stories about it, but he was crackers. But this lad said something to me, shut up, you dickhead, or something. So he made this hangman's knot and put it on the lad's cell door, just on the door. The doorman, and left a little note. Reggie says hello, something like that, and then the lad went, get me out of here, get me out, screaming, banging on the door. They realised, didn't know what he was like obviously like a mad serial killer. So he would have been the man. If he'd have got away with that, he'd just kept doing it.
He'd have kept doing it, and he was anti-police. He was against police. He was really bad with it. But if you watch Kevin,
tell them the story. I never knew this, but Kevin's found out about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about the story about that. And if you watch
why you think he done it?
Yeah, the Murder Without a Motive, and it was in a nice area of Linthorpe, off Oxford Road, Thornfield Road, I think it was, or one of them up there. A lovely house, and next to it was a little bit of an alleyway separated, going to the rest of the estate, all private houses, and. After the end of this, it was a Crime Watch thing, Murder Without Motive. Go on, have a look. It's very good.
Yeah.
And it said, no one to this day knows or was told off Reg Wilson why he killed the doctor in that violent manner, smashed his skull in, I don't know how many times, 50 or 60 times with a mash hammer.
Yeah.
But what they did say at the end of it is this: the only thing they can put on it, and it showed you a staged photo of 2 or 3 young lads, about 10-year-old, 11-year-old, kicking a ball in an alleyway. The only thing they can think of was that when Reg Wilson was young, 10 or 11-year-old, he made a complaint regular, pointing to the house about the doctor who, when he was playing football outside as a kid,
right,
came and chased him away. Get away, get away. And they reckon he came back to smash that doctor's skull in all them years later.
So it just shows you.
So it just shows you.
It just shows you how his mind must have been.
And there's been lots of other murders who weren't convicted in Winniebanks. I'm not sure whether.
I've had me in for a few.
You've been into more murders than nothing. I'm getting Jack the Ripper.
I know, Jack. And every minute you've done this cockerel, I said, I haven't done this at all. He said, well, how come since 1991 you got out? The 1985 has been the worst shootings and violence I've seen in Teesside. So it's a good job, Jamie. Well, they're on them days,
it's a good job.
It'd have been well done.
There'd have been 2,000 or 3,000 people who'd wanted to make an offer to go and do these things for you. But luckily, you're a law-abiding citizen now. And another thing that might be good, if we can get something sorted out, we've got a few contacts going into maybe prisons or schools and talking to yourself, Bram, Richard, whoever. But going back to murders, some people might not know of this as well. Everybody knows about Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper, and what he was. He was a serial killer for prostitutes, And what actually happened was when he was at trial for the murder, he had a top barrister called James Chadwin QC. Can you remember him?
No, I can't remember.
James Chadwin QC from Leeds, proper top old-fashioned barrister. Yeah. And when they were going to trial, he went in chambers with a prosecution barrister and approached the judge, and he says, my client, Peter Sutcliffe, would ask you, could you take a plea? You plead guilty to manslaughter.
Yeah.
Fact. Have a look in the books. It's a fact. And the judge and the prosecutor, what? Guilty to manslaughter of killing X amount of prostitutes.
Yeah.
Yes, the reason I'm saying it, Your Honour, is this. If he pleads guilty to manslaughter, it'll save the families the trial. And I know you will give him the same sentence for manslaughter as you would for murder.
That was good, that.
Yeah, so, but obviously he didn't, and he went to trial.
Yeah.
And if anyone reads it, not that I'm proclaiming this, but a good story about Peter Sutcliffe is when he got arrested, he went into the cells, because me and you have read all these, remember the crime books, Luciano and all them. Remember when Peter Sutcliffe went in, openly admitted what he's done. And on one of them, he gave this explanation to the police. Yes, I drove some people to Manchester. I dropped them up as a favour. I thought I'd go and have some sex with a prostitute. Yeah. But he obviously couldn't rise to the occasion.
Right.
So he picks this prostitute and drives up a little alleyway towards allotments, gives her a £5.
I remember that. I remember this.
She's in the back seat, and when he gets out of his own admission, he starts hitting her on the head and catching the sill of the door, smashing her skull. And she's laid there dying. Drags her away, smashes her to death, hammer everything, and puts her in these thorn bushes, pushed her in, covers her over, and fucks off back to.
But you know why he done it?
Wherever.
The reason why he done it, what it was, the fibres, he worked and he had a size 7 feet, and his feet were up 7. And the £5 note he gave, she had a secret purse, a little part in the purse, and he couldn't find it, and that's why he smashed it to pieces. That's the story. And later on, when Howler caught him, he was in I think it was like a Land Rover or something, some vehicle.
I think
he had the
motorbike
number plates on it. So a young PC was walking for. Took it down with PC plates. There's a woman in with him. So anyway, he said, I want to word you anyway. So he pulled him in and said, get in the car. Can I just go and have a wee? He said. So he went for a wee. So he took him to the police station. So said nothing on him, and that copper thought, he went in the bushes for a wee, and they went there, and when they found the knife and all the stuff, the DNA, so they convicted in the family.
You're right, and it's a big story. And of his own admission, what he said was when he killed that woman, he went away And a week later, it's on the news all over that she still hadn't been found in Manchester, where he went, which is out of his territory.
So the lorry driver, wasn't he?
He's saying this. I was worried that a body hadn't been found, and that if it got found, that would get my fingerprints off it, officer. He's saying this, admitting it, and my fingerprints would be on it. So I went back up to where I killed her, parked up, there was no one about. I had a look in the bushes, and the dead body's still there after 7 days. So I wanted to get rid of the evidence, so I searched for the £5 note that I'd given her. I couldn't find it. And I got that angry that I dragged her out and kicked her fucking head in. So he kicked the dead woman's head in a frenzy because he couldn't find
what happened.
And admitted
they actually got him in for that £5 note because they were only issued them when he went. Maybe 1,000 people were. But they had him in 7 times. And what happened was, We Aside Jack was the next place.
I was just going to mention that.
Who threw him off the side off the track.
Really,
it's me,
really,
We Aside Jack. I really respect you, but you're not going to catch me. You're no further forward. And all them women really, because of that cop, I think he got about 6 years. All them other women would have died because they probably would have caught him before that. That
copped the operation totally that, and eventually they caught him. Well, actually, there was even a few people then early 80s.
It was really bad.
Probably a few of the lads from the Rosebery making phone calls. Hey, I know that Jack, where your side Jack is. It's Tony Ryan. It's Ozzy Bingham. It's so and so, and doors went in, you know.
Can I just say something quick? My dad used to do Jacqueline Hill's, the last victim's mother and father's hair. He was a teacher at the College of Metcalfe sometimes, and his daughter was in Leeds, and but they were the first. That's when the first ever told.
Because she was the one who wasn't a prostitute.
Yeah, she wasn't a prostitute. And mother and father broke down and told my dad, like long before any books came out, or long before it came out on the TV, that he put the screwdrivers in the eyes to stop them looking at him. But the mother and father lived in Metcalfe.
There was another one in Middlesbrough who she got away. She was a nurse. They picked her up and she went. I don't know how it was about. She was giving her a lift or something, and she seen the hammer and stuff, and then she went back and went, he'd gone. And I reckon he was the ripper that time. But it took ages to catch him because it was the ex-policeman one who pretended to be the ripper.
It was as well. And going back
but I can remember it was on the news. It'd be like Flash. It was only BBC One, Time Tees, and BBC Two in them days. But it was in the paper every day, and women, prostitutes that were petrified to go out there, and the whole league of Manchester in the police.
I remember that We Aside Jack that night. He came on the radio, knowing the police played it on the radio, and I was only dead young, but I mean, who on earth could do something like that at the time?
To me,
the other Nilsson, the Black Panther, who killed Leslie Whitley.
He was super fit.
He modelled himself again on the SAS.
Yeah, he was super fit.
All SAS. Mind you, you walk through Middlesbrough Town Centre in the pub, there's at least 500 SAS people in each pub. I was in the SAS. But he was very dangerous when he post office robber.
One of the men kicked him, and he did a somersault and landed on his feet off these the steps that go down. He did a somersault and landed back on his feet. He was super fit.
Yeah, he was.
I was in one of them murders, and it was called John something. I don't know which one it was, and he was very creepy. But I was in Haverick, and he said, "Oh, it's John something," but I never knew who he was. I never wanted to know. And he was really proper, give me the creeps, you know. And you could give him a bat and knock him out. One of them, like Hannibal Lecter, probably killing kids and eating them.
AJReviewsFilms said the court We Aside Jack in 2000s.
Yeah, they did.
The jail he got wasn't enough for what he done. It should have been like that. They caught him.
Going back to people who spent life in prison, when we were on D232, me and Nipper Barnes, my great friend, next door to us was a bloke called Ronnie Dunbar. He's probably dead now. He looked about 50 or 60, short, silver grey, trimmed beard. He was in for murder. And he was in with one of our friends, David Nicholson, Nico. And Nico was a great lad. God bless him, he's dead now. And Nico and him were in together. Nico was shit scared of him. Nico used to be the double of a young Charlie Bronson. We used to call him Charlie Bronson. And the actor, you know. And anyway, we used to take the piss out of Ronnie Dunbar, by opening the window. And he'd sit, I told you last week, and he'd run at her door and bang and bang and bang, and Nick would say, "Kevin, Nipper, stop it, he's going to fucking kill me. He's already into murder." But the story behind him, he was a gentleman. a nice bloke, very educated, and he was in for murder. And the murder he committed was this: he was in his local pub at Leeds area one night. He was playing for the darts team, and he got beat. And this bloke who we knew from the other team went up to him and says, "You're no good at darts, are you?" He says, "No, I'm not. No," he said, "I'm not that great." He said, "You're a dickhead." This is 1970s, maybe 74. It was 76 when we were in. In fact, it was 60s when Ely got convicted of this. Pats him on the shoulder and says, "You're actually no good at fucking anything, are you?" He said, "I mean your wife." And he found out his wife was seeing this bloke. And he was a soft little bloke. And he says, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "No, I'm not." He said, "How long are you staying, boy?" He said, "I'm staying the night." He said, I'm not good at that type of thing." He said, "But I'll show you what I am good at." Went home, got a mash hammer, went into the pub and smashed his skull in about 90 times. Give him it. And anyway, he ended up doing a life sentence. And them days, he'd probably done about 18, 19 years, like a crime of passion. Got out, and he was back in then when we were in because of revoking parole. Because when you go on parole for murder, as you know, Brian, you're on parole for life.
For life, you have to report.
And anyway, a little bit later, 1974, he'd been out about 8-9 years. Someone sold him a television that was stolen. And because it was stolen, he revoked his parole, and he'd already been in for the television for another 8 years. And he didn't know when he was going to get out. So he'd done his life sentence, handled a stolen television, and we're still in 8 years later, It's unbelievable.
Did you meet a lot of
did meet a lot of people in there. Not that I have anything against gays, because I've got quite a lot of gay friends. Nothing against anyone like that. Lots of really good friends who are gay. Lots, very much. And anyway, the first time I'd seen someone who was really, he was a bit creepy, this lad, on the land. And some of the things in the jail, I seen one time.
People in there.
I seen one time a lad who I didn't realise then what 43s was. But there was this dodgy looking lad. Probably looked a little bit like a Nancy boy or something.
What it means, it's a non-swing, isn't
it? And he was coming down, and I was actually there. And all of a sudden, this lad was slopping out, and I see the effects of just something like that. Lashing out, not very hard, and then blood literally, everywhere. And this lad's head slit to pieces with a razor, which was melted into a toothbrush. And obviously he was a nonce, and
I was in that
really bad, covered, and they were putting the towels around his face, and the blood and the blood and the blood.
I was in Liverpool with that How Jews come in, and I was on the boxers, you get your clothes and stuff. And he killed the young kids in Wales. Remember, he was 6'6". He came in, I thought, you fucking nonce. So I give him a brown shoe and a black shoe. I give him a brown sock and a white sock or something. I give him a pair of trousers that would up here like Robinson Crusoe. I give him a ripped shirt. I give him a ripped thingy. I got all these clubs. The governor come on and cop, so you'll make me laugh. You can't let him go on the wingman because he was in the nonce wing. And we had to serve them, and he was a horrible, creepy man. I said, just let me have 5 minutes with this arsehole, because he terrified the whole of where he lived in Wales. He said, "I'd love to leave you in the room, but we can't." But there was
You've got people shouting hello from Austria, Ireland, Northern Ireland.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Absolutely loving it.
Well, my family are from Ireland, from a place called Clonakilty. And I love Ireland.
Noel, shout out to Noel Patton.
Well, Noel. And Annie's, please add me on Facebook.
Don't forget.
Please add us on Facebook. In fact, my family, we've got a pub now where we theme it Irish. So I'm looking for some good Irish dishes, if you know any.
He's over the moon because he's just clicked on it. He's asked if he's alive.
Thank you.
And we all love Ireland. And I've got a big display of all the different Guinness bottles in the pub. All over, old-fashioned, like a bottle bar, which you haven't been lately.
Peter Cabello's watching from Austria.
Peter Cabello from Austria.
Hello, mate.
It's great, but
it's great, isn't it? We can all have this bit of fun.
He said.
We're
just filling it with love.
We're just really
but also we're gonna, as I say, going into some heavy core heavy duty stuff next week.
But that's probably about me.
Probably about Bride, because you know there's been that many murders unsolved in Teesside and Middlesbrough and the North East. Well, even the one that Get Carter was about, wasn't it? You know,
that was true.
That was, and another good old friend of mine where I'd like to get some questions from, and maybe he's getting on viewing it, is a great old bloke called George Reynolds. You've heard of him?
Oh yeah,
lovely bloke.
He built a football stadium, Darlington.
He sent me a message not that long ago, and on it he just says George Reynolds was worth 87 million.
Yeah.
If we do nothing, we'll make nothing. It wasn't about me, he was in general.
Yeah.
And he's 80 odd years old. If you do nothing, you'll make nothing. And he gets up at 6, 7 o'clock every morning. He's got this vapor cigarette place and lovely designer handbags if you want any chest leaves.
Oh, don't tell me that, Brian. Come on.
Top class.
There's no one it's open.
Beautiful
and he vapes and handbags.
And he was very generous, and he's got a book out as well, you know, which I'm reading. And some of the stories are in it are absolutely
he's another generation before us, isn't he? George.
Maybe he's good for when we get
George,
get on with you, Brian.
Get on here with us.
Ask him some great
old school, be brilliant.
Because I mean, he built that Darlington Stadium.
They all said it couldn't be done.
AJReviewsFilms said what was Get Carter about.
Kevin Newton.
Get Carter. Well, if you look at the film Get Carter, Michael Caine was in it, and I'm not sure whether it was Helen Mirren or someone else, but there's a few other people, and it was about a Cockney bloke whose brother was in Newcastle, and it was all to do with gaming machines and pubs and wine bars and getting the deals on them. And anyway, Michael Caine, in the film Michael Caine, his brother was killed, and he comes up to seek revenge for his brother. So it's a very, very good film.
He's like he investigates it and find things. My brother wouldn't have done that.
And he's very down to earth. There's some really good.
Great saying, isn't he? There's a bloke comes out to have a fight with him, and he goes, "You're not in shape, and you're too old for me." Or something he says.
Can you shout hello to someone in Cornwall?
Of course.
Oh, everyone, Cornwall.
Great place, yeah.
Some amazing people.
Brilliant.
But that Michael Caine film, it's a really good one.
I guess he was asking you about that, and he should know. AJReviewsFilms.
I know you should know this. Alan.
He's supposed to be. He's out. He does our editing for us. He's
a
lovely lad, and he does all the thumbnails and all that on our YouTube channel. And he's lovely. But he's a film reviewer.
Is he?
And he's asking us what Get Carter's about.
He's only 40-year-old.
And has he seen Matt Vicker, Roddy Daltrey? That's a really great film, on about Durham prison breaking out of it.
The ending on a cold beach is Get Carter, is that right?
Yeah, where he gets.
You're right, Yorkshire boy.
And another one of my favourite films.
Stallone made a remake of it in America, but it was nowhere near good.
Some of them are never ever as good once they make that film.
No, it's like the original King Kong.
Another one of my favourite films of recent years, and Bram and Heidi always call me, probably because I'm an old fucker, is Harry Brown, Michael Caine.
When he,
and it's good that, and to be honest with you,
it's like an XSES type character.
He's an ex-marine, but it's very down to earth.
Yeah, it's really good.
What's it called?
Harry Brown.
He's like, like Frank Yappen.
Something like him.
It's like Frank Yappen.
Yeah,
the film is brilliant.
But it's very realistic.
It is, and whoever's done it's really.
Is his name Harry Brown?
Call the title Harry Brown. And I'd love to, and I think Brian would, to, even though we say we'd like to be on with everyone, love to get hold of some of the scumbags and be legally allowed to do that.
Well, they used to be able to do it and get away with it now.
Do it, yes.
With a camera, if you can't, with the Christians, we can't do these things, but we obviously let the police do their job, and thanks for Cleveland Police last week because they let us get on with this.
Harry Brown's Royal Marine,
They were really good.
Yeah, they were really good last week and this week. So
can we have another quick story?
Yeah, is there anything
Everyone's
you'd like?
Asking for
what type of story do you want?
They just thought, they said they just want stories. They don't want you to leave.
Well, I'll give them a few warm ones.
About what's coming.
About what's coming. Legally, you've got to see what you can say and what you can't say. But in recent years, going back within the last 20 years, in fact, I think it was 1984, before then, police would take you to the cells and anything with that.
Yeah.
Give you a good harden that fit you up, anything. And another friend of ours who was very well versed in law, Phil Berryman, another good book, the wacky backy thing.
Yeah.
Just to say, Phil, if you ever hear anything about that boy, he's a proper low life. Watch the man.
Horrible.
But Phil has another thing. He does this great CBD.
Very, very clever.
He's probably the best in the UK
inventing things.
to invent these things about cannabis oils.
He showed me this thing about catching fish with a hook, and Kev Brown's got his house now.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you for all the work you've done for us as well, Kevin. So
Phil's a very clever. You've got some great products, you know. Good, very, very good.
Yeah.
But going back to the crime thing, them days, you know, and then they introduced what they called the PACE Act, and the PACE Act stands for Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984. Right. And from then things should have changed, but didn't really. And in Cleveland and the Northeast and other places, there was one big famous bloke wrote a book called Bent Coppers, but also recent years, especially in Cleveland police, as I say, I'll seek legal advice because some people will hate this, some people will love it.
Yeah.
There's been some really bad things going on where certain drug dealers have been raided at 6 o'clock in the morning, raid, and they went there and everything's gone. And they've done a 147 on the phone, and on the 147 on the phone, 15 minutes after they've gone in, 15 minutes before they were due to go in, the number has been Cleveland Police, Dunham Road Police Station. So someone there, and let's face it, whoever needs to go to jail needs to go to jail.
Yeah.
But if people are going to jail and being fitted up for something that they haven't done,
not right.
Then that's wrong.
I think that,
especially if they're innocent people. I know of a couple of people who've went, and one of them was frightened to death that much of something he hadn't done. In fact, I know the other lad that did do it was a bit of damage to one of his properties, and the property that had the damage in it was a policeman. And he says, if you don't admit to that, I'm going to fit you up. And the poor lad out of fear admitted to it. He got 6 months in jail for criminal damage to a house of a policeman. Where he didn't do it just to get out of it.
You know. All night.
You get good and bad. You get good and bad and all. There's in every film. You get good teachers. There's bent coppers. There's some nice places. There's some bad places. There's nice bodybuilders. There's some bad bodybuilders. Good. Same as religion. You get good and bad in every religion.
Another story about a policeman. I see years ago, as when we were younger, you were all trained, age coppers.
You were brainwashed, weren't you?
Brainwashed. I know some really good policemen.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one a couple of weeks ago, you might be looking now, when the drinks thing come back into force, 4th of July, I got arrested for drink driving, and I hadn't been drink driving.
Yeah.
And I give him a bit of mouthful, but if he's watching now, I apologise because I was probably a little bit daft.
Yeah.
So if that man is watching now, that policeman, come into our pub and we buy a drink,
I always say, you don't mind.
You don't want to be a copper's narc, people are people.
Yeah.
But one of my great friends, a lad from years ago, if he's watching, was in the police force for a lot of years, called Billy Maloney. Maureen knows him well. He was brought up very well by his mum on his own, lived just off Longford Street.
Yeah.
And them days, Billy and me were into skinheads, only 13, 14-year-old. My family had out. Yeah. We couldn't afford to buy whatever. And I wanted a pair of Levi's Stay Press. The only way I could earn any money whatsoever was by my brother Raymond getting us on the turkey picking wagon in October.
Yeah.
And I remember it was October. Terrible. It was October 1972, and it was freezing. And I said to Billy, if we go down, we get on the back of the wagon. If we do 2 days, I think we got 2 or 3 quid for the day. We can get a pair of Levi's Stay Press. Oh, I'll go for that, Kev. I'll go for that. What is it? Didn't tell him what much was about it because Billy had quite a good life. He was looked after by his mum and that. Yeah. Anyway, we got on it and it was freezing, drizzling, rain, ice cold. And we got there and it was still dark on this October morning. Yeah. And you've got this blanket sacked around you and you're bent down, back breaking, and they do what they call a stretch, picking the turkeys up.
Kills you, doesn't it? Kills.
You wouldn't believe the graft. And it come about 11 o'clock and Billy says, Kev, I don't want any more fucking state press.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. My fucking hands are fucking bleeding.
Me and my
You
friends
know,
went,
and we got the
yeah.
£5 and we did end up getting a pair of state press with them. And later on, Billy went into the police force, and he did quite well in it, but he never really. What can I say? He was a good cop. You know, he went through it. He was in the license and police.
What I used to like about the old cops, if you got caught, he said they kid into the Hartlepool football ground, you get slapped on the lug and that would be it.
Oh yeah.
Kick up the ass. Now they arrest you for nothing, for throwing a bit of paper on the floor. It's stupid, isn't it? The things.
Well,
but now it should be the old Scotland. I know your dad. No, you don't. Do you mean cocker? You go, oh no, dad's going to go. Oh, I know your mum.
Yeah.
I'm telling your mum when I say your mum. No, you don't know your mum. You're trying to be clever and fair for it. And then they know your mum. You go, oh no. And you know you're going to get a good eye. You used to get a good eye, didn't you?
Well,
it was a deterrent, but now there's no deterrent.
Now there's no deterrent.
I used to get my mouth flushed out with soap and water, didn't I?
Yeah.
But some people did.
Yeah.
Another quick story about the police, and it's a funny one, and it concerns my late brother Ray. He was a proper character, innocent lad, a drinker, lived at Bruce Avenue, Winniebanks with Kathleen. And my brother was on Brian from when he was in the SAS, he'd left. And anyway, he used to just look like a solicitor, or he'd look like them days, 20 or 30 years ago, like a CID officer, dressed like one. And he had this smack on like they would. Anyway, we borrowed Mac's Nova car, white car, which looked like an undercover police car. And I'd got this proper professional uniform, policeman's uniform. And I weren't as big as I got. I'd lost a bit of weight at the time, so I fitted in it good. And it was a proper uniform, proper walkie-talkies and a lot. And it was when the Dr. Beckett murder came on, and everyone was looking for the Dr. Beckett murder, blah, 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 Dr. Beckett, Dr. Beckett. And anyway, me and Brian pulls up outside 18 Bruce Avenue, Winniebanks. And I says, Brian, if I put the beams on here, it'll blind Ray's eyes, he won't see. Yeah. And we'll talk from behind the bin. He hasn't seen you for years, so he won't recognise you. Put a pair of glasses on. So me and Brian are there. I walked up with him in the uniform. The radio's coming on. Lima 1, Lima 2, scanner. Looked all official. And my older brother, Mr. Raymond Kilty. Yes, Mr. Kilty. Can we have a word with you, please? Could you just get in the car? You're going down to the police station. You're under arrest. You don't have to say anything, but you're being arrested in connection with the Dr. Beckett murder. If there's anything you do want to say or wish to say, it will be taken in the evidence, blah, blah, blah. And we turned around and he says, are you sure you're not looking for my brother Kevin? I took the hat off and I said, no, I'm fucking not. But honestly, the tricks we used to get up to, and Ozzy Bingham, we've got Ozzy on one time in Winniebanks, with another one of our great friends, Trish James's brother, who I mentioned earlier, Cantor, Stephen James. Me and Brian, again, we pulled up in the same thing, same outfit, pulls up, and Cantor knew my voice. So Brian, he's up in his CID uniform, just plain clothes. Ozzy in handcuffs, me and thingy next to him, and Ozzy, and we staged it all. It's just me, Ozzy. He said, I didn't like to say out like, but they've had me in, and I've just had to tell them about the videos and the DVDs I've told you and that, and the microwaves can't. They're going to arrest you. And Cantor's there, and he said, "Can you come down, Mr. James? You're under arrest." And Cantor, a lovely lad, looks downstairs. You fucking bastard, Ozzy. You come down. And he comes down, and we get him in the handcuffs, puts him in the door, and I take me out and say, "How are you doing, Cantor?" Some of the tricks we've had, and but we go into some of the serious crime ones as well, because as I say, I'm going to seek some legal advice, because there's some really good ones. I mean, there was some about the firearms thing with Keith McCrae, it was a big thing that, one thing I can say about it at the time, say a little bit about it, and it's not proclaiming gangsters or whatever. The people who he's killed, God rest their souls, if he has killed them, very sad for their families. For anyone, it's horrible, but it shows you how loyal the people of Park End were. They put a big operation on Keith because he was wanted for alleged murder and that, and, man on a mission, lone wolf McQuaid type of thing, known to have shotguns. And the pub, the Newmarket, where you and Mark were going to have the security on one time, remember, because of the problems Keith was causing. they had this 24-hour round the block armed surveillance looking for Keith McQuaid.
Yeah.
And they had it for a number of weeks. I think it was over the Christmas and New Year of about 4 weeks. And it was constant, 24 hours, non-stop, you know, target number one. Then I think you were target number one after that.
Yeah.
And anyway, they were looking for him, couldn't find him. And all the time, do you know what he was doing? He was in the Newmarket pub. And the public ground there didn't breathe a word. And what they did is when the coppers come in, the publican, whoever it was, I don't know, but looked after Keith that much then, that there was an empty big beer bottle bin, you know, from here to you, Emma, you know, massive, and a full one. And what they did is when the coppers come to the door, he'd ran, jump in there, and 4 of the lads had come and pour all the bottles over him in the beer bin to protect him. And all of that money spent on that, they didn't catch him. Same as the other one, which I'll go into detail later, which everyone will love this story in detail, because Bri will have to tell quite a bit of it, and I will, and if he was here, our great friend Bri Cockrell. When Bri was allegedly top drug dealer in Great Britain, mass murderer, all the fucking rest of the things, he was target number one. They wanted him. No ifs or buts, they wanted him. I went doing nothing wrong at the time, so, but I wasn't the surveillance, and I knew that Bri had a bug on his car. He showed us it. But I'll cut the long story short, that operation, what the police put on him, was possibly, I'd say, an 18-month operation, and it probably cost millions. And the end outcome of what happened at that was a failure for the police. I'm not knocking them a failure, but I'll tell that story later on because it's a great story. And this cheeky fucker,
helicopters,
in the middle of Leeds, like a Teesside Park thing, entertaining the crowd. I'll tell you the story.
Jimmy Hayes from Wigan says, can you give him a shout out from Wigan?
Yes, Jimmy Hayes from Wigan.
All right, Jimmy from Wigan.
Great Wigan casino at the time.
Come on, called Mark Coulter's Paranormal Research. These are the greatest stories, guys. Longest I've ever been on a live in a while and watched it all.
Brilliant.
So everyone's saying,
welcome.
Chrissy, everyone, brilliant stories.
Cheers, Chrissy, one of our best friends.
No BS. Everyone's just saying.
Next
it's
week,
great, guys, just to come on. We thought we'd do it to entertain people, have a bit of fun, put a bit of spirit back into them. And over this COVID's been horrendous for a lot of people. So my wife Emma and Kevin and Bram and people like that, we just want to help people, and this is what we're here for: a bit of fun, bit of laughing, a bit of nostalgia, and bringing back the old days type of thing. And
some of it's going to get into really, really good detail and good advice. Good advice about people's mental well-being, health,
nutrition, diet,
medicine. Not over. I mean, some people don't know what you know. No. I mean, someone walking past Muhammad Ali wouldn't know what he knew in his later years. People don't know what you might know about history and things in medicine, and you know a hell of a lot about history. Sometimes, because I haven't had been employed to do certain things, what I could have done, because I was a lot of the time was looking after kids. One of my things, which I had a lot of time to do it, and I had books and books and books.
I remember you used to have loads of
Melanie shoplifted most of them.
Crime books, I remember.
Crime books, Stones, Justices, Harvard Law, and also on medicine and nutrition. And there's some things that we can tell to reassure people about their personal health, where they're not over panicking about things like COVID, about other things, about illnesses. And again, I was just mentioned then, one of the person I hold in high regard, and I haven't scraped on the edges of it yet, is Steve Norton. He's written a book. And I think anyone wanting some practical experience advice,
he's good. Brilliant. We had him on the show. He's going to come back and do another one with us, but what a lovely, lovely man. And he can prove. Steve doesn't lie, psychologist, brilliant. He came in the gym once when I was squatting, I think it was 700-pound front squats. He said, I've seen you weren't showing off, Brian. And he says, you come in. He told the story on the show, he said, and it was Michael's gym on Linthorpe Road one. And he said, you come in, it was only me in. And I think Michael was in Flanagan. And he said, you come on, you went up to 700 pounds front squat. You come off, look back, and went up and down, did about 10 reps and put it back. And he said, and he said to me, I was just like, gobsmacked. Never seen anyone in my life do that type of way. And all right, mate, have a nice day. And you talk to me like that. I said, I was just like shocked what you'd done. It was just, and you weren't doing the shock. There was no use in, he said.
Well, I can remember being there one time and Bri doing very similar with a similar weight, massive weight, 600 pound or whatever more, front squat. And it was literally the end of the session. I particularly at the time were doing very little training, but I was with him everywhere. And Bri Flaherty was and Bri was thinking, and Bri gets on it, the squat with 600 pound on, and he's just starting to do it, just about 3 reps, and dead seriously, you know, comically turns round, but not trying to be funny, says to Bri Flaherty, Bri, last set this, he said, we'll go and get some KFC after this, and starts just squatting it normally. And Bri Flaherty says, can you finish the set now and let's go now?
He was funny, Bri Flaherty. We went to the story about the, I don't know if you told me last time, but we went to the Kentucky.
Oh, the KFC, yeah.
17-piece Kentucky, Kevin, I'll tell you.
Yeah, and they used to do it regular on a Friday, but Big Bri used to do it every night.
Big Bri passed away. But
I sadly, when they had these big cars, the Uzi Troopers, Range Rovers, Saabs, a lot, I was just fucking shot in the back, mate. Get in the back, you know. But I didn't mind actually because I could be entertained by them. And I think I got maybe a chicken fillet bun or something like that.
If you're lucky. If I was lucky.
And him and Bri got the big bargain bucket, 17 pieces or whatever. And once you got the bargain buckets, the conversation with Bri Flaherty stopped. That was it.
He'd just be like non-stop.
Nodding. Yeah.
Hilarious, honestly.
And I remember him finishing it off, and Bri was on to about his last 2 pieces of chicken thighs. And he's eating it, and all of a sudden, Bri's looking, he says, have you got 2 pieces there, Bri? Is that your last ones? He's looking, giving the pet lip and the mucky look. Because, and anyway, he finishes him up and says, oh, yeah, all right, Bri, we'll go to Chinese now. So Big Bri sends this Bri to the Chinese before Bri's getting dropped off home, Bri Flaherty. And Bri goes in and orders king prawn fried rice, egg foo young, curried a lot, and he goes in mad. Big Bri Flaherty sits in the car, and she says, oh, I'm just getting it for Big Bri. And about Bri Flaherty, should I was in here about 2 hours ago?
Just had a chicken curry fried rice twice, he said 2 hours ago, so he said 3 chicken curry fried rice that night.
Chrissy Evans just said, I bumped into Keith in Durham, and he said his occupation. When they asked him his occupation, he said, I'm an armed robber.
Well, he was an armed robber.
He was.
And one of the questions when he was actually in the cells getting interviewed for, as I say, we're not bulling it all up, but he was getting interviewed.
It's just facts, it's true.
Because of the murder. Can you imagine someone who was in the cells and they've been pulled up for murder? What? Allegedly they did commit, or whether they did or didn't. But if you had committed that murder, and the police are asking you questions, your man would be turning over. Well, the questions in court read out was, they said to Keith, blah blah blah. Keith, were you so and so at Park End, any of the community centre when Rico Richardson was killed? And just said casually, I was in the court. Keith McQuaid replied, fuck off. Were you so and so, so and so, so and so? Fuck off. Look, just sat there casually, just not answering the questions. And then they say in a temper to him, you don't have to answer the questions. And he stands up dead casually, he said, I don't have to fucking listen either, just put us in that cell and take us to Durham. Because he provided no evidence, whether he was guilty or not guilty. There wasn't enough evidence to convict
what it is sometimes when the police get you in, and they get you there, it's like it's like having an empty good gun. As soon as you start answering them, all police officers, they get nicked, all barristers, all top people doing no comment. That's so, because you can incriminate yourself by answering the questions. If you've got nothing to hide, obviously you do, but that's what they always do, no comment. And as you know yourself, if you start answering questions, then you're putting points on the thing, and the case starts coming together. But if you're doing no comment, that's why it's very hard. All top criminals do that straight away. Just don't say a thing. Soon as the barrister says, they all say no comment, don't they? But I've got a few people where they do. Rudy, remember Black Lad?
Yeah, I didn't know him, but knew of him.
He was a nice lad.
I didn't know him, but I knew of him.
He was a good lad. He was going to see his father, I think it was, who passed away at like a wake thing, and on the way back he crashed and died in the car, got killed.
I
And
remember
he
that.
come
Yeah.
back and they buried the dad and the brother at the same time. It was a sad story.
I think he might have been at the time
He-
going
he
out
run-
with
he-
Michael's ex
He
Joanne.
was, yeah,
I think
Joanne,
Michael,
yeah.
Joanne.
He run most of the leagues, that lad.
Yeah, I reckon he did. Yeah, you reckon he was a good lad? I'd never
he was,
met
he
him,
was
right?
good lad. Yeah, he was a good kid. But
I'd
he was
never
big, strong
met
lad,
him.
yeah, nice.
But another little
But
bloke.
it shows you one. I was talking one night next day. I said, "Oh, where is he?" She said, "He was killed yesterday in the car crash." I said, "What happened? He fell asleep."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can remember lots of years ago, me and Mike Flanagan down to see Kerry Kayes, who was a great nutritionist.
He had doctors now, didn't he?
He self-studies, had doctors on the books, a lot, self-study, great nutritionist. Kerry. And he was very well in with Dorian Yates. And me and Mike Flanagan went down at the time, and
Michael was a good bodybuilder. No?
Very good, yeah, excellent. And prior to, we talked to Kerry quite a lot about strength, and Michael, give him his due, he always used to be bullying Brian. Oh, Brad, will you see this? And anyway, we came down, and this day we walked in, and Kerry had in Better Bodies gym at Denton, Manchester. He had this top class gym, really good gym, and it had a little cafe in it, just a small one, doing dinners, liver, onions, minced dumplings, that. And in it, he brought us down to meet Dorian Yates, and we sat just having some dinner and all that. And the first question, as we got chatting, that Dorian Yates asked us, he said, "I can't wait to meet the big fella, Brian Cockrell. I've heard about how strong he is." Fuck me. He said, "You'll have to bring him round to meet us." So even the likes of him knew about him, you know. Yeah. And going on about, Kerry Kayes told us a little story of that, and I didn't know it at the time, that Mick Theo, who's a bodybuilder, he's been proclaimed to be going to have a fight with Tyson Fury's dad, which I would think he might be wise not to, because Tyson Fury's dad brought up the fighting family. I wouldn't like to see them fight. No, you know, you don't want to promote that.
The kids have said no, haven't they?
They've been there, seen it, don't have to do it.
And going on about John Fury, another good thing is Tony Robbo is bringing him to Teesside Harbour. Another big credit to Tony Robbo, you know, is he's brought some great people to Teesside Martin Country Club. Riddick Bowe, people like that, Nigel Benn, even got in the ring and sparred with Nigel Benn. Tony Robbo's brought some great people, probably at a risk where he could have lost a bit of money. But well done on you, Tony. You're doing really good, you know. And
Wayne Bingham, I remember Kev as a kid in Winnie Banks as a bodybuilder, was in such great shape, was in amazing shape. And even his dad are going to call over.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. How these things happen for a purpose like God does it. For me, people are sharing these stories, and we're all having good fun tonight, and it's good. Instead of just people sitting at home depressed, and the little thing we're doing here is helping people. And it's good. It's helping us as well. It feels great.
I mean, even Kerry Kayes just dropped it in politely. He was talking about, Lenny McLean's right hand man, or one of them is. Well, it was just for sure, whatever. But at one time, Lenny McLean was well in with, Mick Theo, great bodybuilder, was well in with Lenny McLean. And Kerry just dropped it dead quietly. He said, "Oh, Lenny McLean's heard all about Big Bry, you know, about high strength efforts and all that, you know." And so it just shows you we can't see.
Yeah, that's what David Ashton, who's from Hartlepool, who's my brother. He lives in America now, but he's from Hartlepool, but he lived in London, his dad's and that. And he was in with the great Joe Powell, senior, wasn't he? His dad, and all them type of people. And he knows all them type of people. I know of friends and that. And he says, "You won't believe how many people who talk about it, like Tony Turner and Jerry Ellis and all them with the nose." And I was shocked to everyone knows Brian Cockrell. He said, "We all know your name." He said, "But you all respect you because you're not a bully and you're a good person and you don't talk rubbish." And that's why the idiot we were talking about earlier on, they've all gone against him, because calling me names and saying stupid things that didn't happen. But we've just got on as Christians. We just don't want anyone hurt. We don't want him hurt.
You don't want anyone hurt, do you? I mean, give Terry Dicko his due.
Little Terry, good lad.
Little Terry. He's, I mean, obviously in his time he's been a bit of a lunatic. He can be nasty if he wants to, but he can also be a great character. And one thing I was quite impressed about Terry is this idiot from Stokesley has aggravated him so much. he's very lucky. Same as with yourself and other people.
And other people.
He's so lucky.
Yeah.
But give Terry his due. He's quite forgiving, and he's more than saying, why are you saying these things about it? Why are you thinking? So Terry's good on you, is quite forgiving about it, you know.
He said to me, he said, why would he go on about these things when he's supposed to be this and supposed to have a Christian thing on his wrist? And he says, I can't understand why he wants to pick fights with everyone. I mean, my friend Rob Holloway, another kid down there, his wife was on the phone for him for about 3.5 hours just because she said something like, oh, and then Rill Radley, he had an argument over boxing. Then another kid, because he drove past him in the street, went, how dare you drive past me and not talk to me? He's absolutely insane. Yeah. You know, just fell out with me because I wouldn't have right lies about nothing. That's all it's about.
The thing that turned me against him, I don't want to give him airtime at all, was he was chatting to me and he was wanting me to say a little bit of in his Lee Duffy book, and I didn't want to. This was before he got in contact with you, and I didn't want to for lots of reasons. Cause I didn't know Lee well. Obviously, I was there with the fight and that, but I didn't want to say anything to him. But he was encouraging me to say things. But one thing, I was in Costa Coffee at Stockton having a coffee with him. What put me off him totally was that he walked in and he said this. He said, "Do you know, I fucking despise Tommy Harrison. I hate that man so much." And I thought, what's the reasons for saying that for? Now, regardless of who likes who, I've always got on Tommy.
I can tell you what the reason is.
He's an expert with the watches and that. Tommy, I like Tommy.
Tommy wouldn't give him the stories about Lee Duffy. Exact same thing. Anyone, same as Mark Hartley, had trouble with Mark Hartley. Say Mark was calling me. Mark's been my friend for years. And Lee was my friend. You know what I mean?
Mark and Liam, great blokes.
And you were calling me, I had never been in years.
Mark and Liam.
When he said you were saying it, and other people were saying, I've known them since I was 22, 23-year-old. I said, there's no way this man can kill yourself about me. I said, I've been there and he's been there for me. I said, since we met each other, never had an argument, nothing. I said, so I don't know where this has come from. So when I said, we'll go and see Kevin. Kevin was agreed to it. And he said, oh no, we'll leave it, we'll let him off of that. Then the alarm bell started ringing in. And when I started seeing him, and as you watch him and have a look on YouTube,
I knew you'd click on Brian. Obviously, I was a little bit not but I thought,
if you look on the YouTube channel, you'll see him on there with me. I do. You've seen him all. What a mess. What a mess. But we just absolutely.
And going on to Mark Hartley, Mark was a good footballer, you know.
Was he?
Yeah, very good footballer, really good. In fact, there's somewhere, Mark, I've got some photos of you playing football over Port Clarence.
Right. Never told me that, has he?
Me and Sean Day with a quick story about Sean. Sean. A funny story. I seen him at my auntie's funeral the other week, and I'll say Sean can have a bit of a fight. He's not scared of anyone. We can all have a bit of a go. I was in a pub one night, and I was with Sean, and my mum was there, and this, I won't say his name, but a person, he's not an hard case, in fact, he's nothing. As I was chatting, he sneakily turned around and punched me in the mouth and bust me mouth. Didn't hurt me at all, I'll be honest with you. And just as I casually turned round to give him a smack, so say he didn't hurt me, by the time I had, Sean had smacked him and levelled him out. But because of the lad being sneaky, after Sean had levelled him, I couldn't help but give him a couple of punches because of how sneaky he did. And I have to laugh because afterwards, Sean dead casually lit a cigarette, and the lad's laid out. He's not in a great shape, you know, where Sean's hit him and where I've hit him a bit. And Sean says, we drop him up at the hospital while we go to Noel's pub. So Sean gets him in the car, we dropped him off at the hospital. But I was talking to Sean. Sean's a very knowledgeable lad. Got some great stories in that, you know. And that's John Fail, you know. They're all characters what have
been there.
They've had some good touches and clever touches, you know, and that was when life was life. These people about now, the nothings, there isn't the nobodies. I mean, two good people who are good friends of mine who I like very, very much, and not because they're tough lads. And I help them sometimes with nutrition as Carl Valley.
Oh, brilliant, Carl, fantastic.
And Simon Valley. And Uncle Stephen Vaz.
I don't know. I lovely lad, Carl, Christine, same as me, Simon, Christine, well, we get on with each other. If he's down, he'll phone me. I'll phone him. We help each other. Really good lad. We've done the Hartley pub with our fish and chip before COVID. With our thing with Tony Grange to sit down and with our Bible studies and things like that. Really good. And he can fight for fun. I mean, Simon fought. He was in the Commonwealth champion. Absolutely fantastic. And what he's done. Good fantastic, and he's come back in, but he's fighting again.
He's fighting again now. It's really good.
Really good. But the brilliant lads.
It's also good if you get lads. I'm saying not without naming names, people from the borough, because the borough in Teesside's got a great name out of it. Where some people who are fighting over little daft things can maybe not hold the grudges and be all right with each other. Imagine all these people who we know and they know have got little bits of conflict with each other. All be all right together and unite. What a force of nice people.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Teesside,
it's like, if you had a fight over somebody, over spilt a drink on you or something, or bumped into in a pub or something, just go and see them and say, look, Howie, let's make friends, shake hands. Family, people have had family squabbles, things like that. Make friends, because one day they're not going to be here and you're going to regret when they die. You say, I wish I'd have been up with my brother or my sister or one of their best, I think people should.
It's sad that most of people's feelings are described and shown at funerals.
That's right,
so it's time people got together long before that and tried to unite, and help people, help the helpless. There's a lass called Susan Gill. She runs the homeless cafe in Princess Road,
which is a fantastic job.
She's helped everybody.
I don't know the girl.
Recently, she got a friend of ours from years ago, Sue Bilton, young Sue, whose family I knew very well, got her a house, and she's helping people all over. She's not only helping them with food and this, that, and the other. She's actually helping them when they've sadly passed away. Young Billy Will, Bilton. Sorry,
great.
She's helping them with funerals, accommodation, and that. And when you think of the funds that's gone into the expenses, where everyone who's had to have the premises shut down through COVID, 10 grand here, 10 grand there. Maybe these homeless hostels should get more support than they need it, And another one who's doing really good for that type of thing is Jessie Jacobs, who's putting in to be mayor. I don't know whether you've seen her. She's a friend of ours, the Richardson. She's doing great things. Things are changing, and hopefully for the better, especially when the lockdown finishes,
so right, I think we'll leave it there, new guys, because we've been on over 2 hours.
There's a lot more to talk about.
A lot more.
Next week,
we don't want to
talk in detail.
Don't want to give it all away.
And we're not going to go off track next week.
No, we'll be off track. There'll be a story next week, and it'll be only about that story.
And it's only because the broadband went a bit funny and stuff.
We've got to talk now. The gremlins are sorted, but it's good fun anyway, guys. And thanks everyone for listening, watching. Take care. Love you all. Be safe.
Thank you. Next week.